Hello! How are we all doing? It's been that kind of week. Let me know when and if you can hear me. Fingers crossed. Oh, Kim was in there first. Excellent, you can hear me. Well, can I just say before we even get going, Mike, I'm disgusted with the BBC. We discussed BBC licensing last night, didn't we? They finished strictly at 9:05, which means I can't vote till 9:05. Oh, no! But it's all right. I've got it keyed up on the screen that I can actually see. If anybody else watched Strictly tonight, tell me what you thought. Put it in the chat. Oh, so many of you in the chat. Hello to each and every one of you. I'm going to have to make that bigger or change my glasses, one or the other. Age is a terrible thing. Oh, I'm getting introductions to people as well. So hello, hello, hello. Graham's with us. Hello, Graham. And Paul's with us. Hello, Paul. Patience has to fire up YouTube on the phone. Oh, no. In transit. Oh, well, Patience, don't lose the signal. There's something especially for you. Don't lose the signal. Whatever. No issues tonight, apart from the fact that Strictly should have finished at 9 and not 5 past, because I can't vote until they've finished fiddling. Not on. But apart from that, everything is good. Renee, am I here? There's a philosophical question for a Friday night. No, Renee, you're there. But you won't want to miss it this either, because I've got something that I put in particularly for you as well. Oh, right. I never knew that happened. The page on the BBC has automatically updated and allowed me to vote. So who am I voting for? Where's it gone? There she is. Right.
You vote.
I'll vote.
And the MacBites can chat amongst themselves.
Well, you see, the thing is, right, I can vote 12 times because I've got multiple BBC accounts. Don't tell the BBC, because I thought tonight they were cruel. They were cruel to one of my favourites. So I'm voting as we speak for my favourite.
Is this on the agenda?
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. I'm sure at least one other person will have watched it, Mike. Because we're down to the last, is it 6? Is it 5 or 6? We're down to the last handful anyway. And usually they're all pretty decent, but Craig's not giving anybody 40s. So I'm going to vote for the one that I thought was severely undermarked. Right.
Do that and I'll see the scores.
Right, it's all sorted. I'm now dealt with, so we can get on with it. This really shouldn't happen. Normally it's on a Saturday night, but they've moved it for the football, which not good. What can I say? Anyway, let's head off. Let's head off and make sure that things are moving and you can see slides and things. So I'm going to press that, move this. Yes, it's looking like you can see things, which is awesome. Right, okay. So we've got the week at MacBites headquarters, obviously, and another interesting week. Then we have a request. It's a surprise. Then we're looking at the craft updates. There's a reason for that, even though the majority of you probably use Notion. If you use Craft, let me know. Craft is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I do. But when it comes to, it's like, when I'm using it, it's like, oh, this is amazing. And then when I need to share things with Mike, it's amazing. But other than that, I don't find it as amazing as everything else. Oh, it's annoying. Then I'm wrapping up Para. I had a couple of mails afterwards with, can I do this and can I do that with it? So we're wrapping up Para. I've got 3 more examples. Then we are managing colour while we are switching apps. That was a forced switch. Wasn't my choice, that. Then we've got some freebies. One is a true freebie, and the other freebie is naughty, isn't it, Mike? It's a naughty freebie. You'll understand when we share it. And then I will be showing you how I did finish creating the Quirk-book in Affinity Publisher, which, if you recall last week, I'd got to the grand point of making it as a book. Yet that didn't end well. But you've probably got your Quirk-book now, and if you haven't got your Quirk-book, Mike's probably got a link for it somewhere. Haven't you? Yes, right. Well, don't worry about that till later. In which case you can download said Quirk-book. Right, let's get on. We are broadcasting in HD. Make sure you are receiving in HD. YouTube this week, 240 for me. I don't think it goes lower than 240, does it? It's like 240 brackets pea soup fog. Anyway, we're at 1080p. Make sure you are. There is a like button down there, because the cog is in the lower right-hand corner and the like button is very close. And YouTube likes, but not as much as we do. Right, I'm leaving in the coming up at the beginning rather than the end in case somebody nods off, because we've had questions about when I'm doing sessions, and we've already done some. You must have missed them. But coming up, we will have Affinity Designer 2 for desktop. Let me know in the chat, are you Mac or Windows? It probably wouldn't end well if I tried to do a demo on Windows, would it? They are identical, but, just slightly different enough to throw me in a live demo. Then there will be Affinity Designer 2 for iPad. Then we'll be back to the desktop for Affinity Photo 2 for desktop and Affinity Photo 2 for iPad. But we have already started this series. So available on demand, the links are there, Mike, is Affinity Publisher 2 for desktop. That was great fun. That was all the updates. And Affinity Publisher 2 for iPad, which was great fun in its own right. If you were with us on Wednesday, you will know exactly what I mean. If you want to make sure that you don't miss the announcements of the dates for those, make sure you visit elainegiles.com/VIP and sign up for my VIP newsletter, and you will get the dates first. So, how was the week at MacBites headquarters? As chaotic as ever. Aren't you blessed when you're watching this that your life has got to be easier? It started on Saturday, early morning Saturday, with Lola checking progress. She wasn't impressed. We were still at this stage, with the bits they'd broken laid out neatly. So that's where we were. We still had holes on Saturday. Sunday, now this was literally 1 minute past midnight on Sunday. I got a mail. And it was about Parallels. So I have a Parallels subscription. It's an application that lets you run Windows on a Mac. And I have a subscription for it, and it was due for renewal. I can't let this thing lapse in any kind of way because I'm grandfathered onto a cheap rate, which is less than half what Mike pays for one licence, and Mike needs 2 licences. So I glanced at it and thought, oh yes, I know that's due around now because I know I got a Black Friday deal on it. I wasn't concerned. Silly me. When I actually read the small print, the payment had been declined. I thought, what? Then I realised they had an old credit card number that they've not asked to update in 2 years, but this year they decided they wanted the new number. So I went to 1Password and I copy and pasted that the number they required could not possibly have made a mistake. I use this credit card all the time online. It's the only card we use online. There are reasons for this. So I got it put in there, checked everything. It was perfect. It was declined again. With a snotogram, which meant I could have got Mike out of bed. It wouldn't be the first time I've done that. Remember when I got you out of bed because I needed some money put in PayPal? It was urgent. What can I say? It saved me £500, that. So Mike was going to have to ring the bank. Mike needs to ring the bank because I'm not allowed to ring the bank. And that probably was the system they were using, wasn't it, Mike? Because it took us 20 minutes to get through. Once we'd got through and we explained the situation, she did confirm that, yes, the payment had been declined, but she didn't know why. So she needed to put us through to the fraud department. That was fun. The whole of Sunday afternoon, we were on the phone, and for an hour and 55 minutes, all we were hearing was, your call is very important to us. You are in a queue. We will answer shortly. And the other message was, we've got very high call volumes at the moment. I thought, well, if you weren't unilaterally declining payments, you wouldn't have, would you? When we finally got through, the bank have unilaterally blocked Parallel's chosen payment processing service company. What the actual? So it was like, so no matter what we do, we're not going to get that payment through. Oh, it was a he by then. He said, no. So I said, is it just you, or is this like a global block? He said, well, I can confirm we've blocked them. I don't know about anybody else. So it was like, well, what do you expect me to do? Strap £5 notes to a pigeon's leg? Because that's where we were at. I still don't think it's sorted. More on that next week then, probably. Once we'd finally got rid of them, we were back to the World Cup. So luckily we did have other things to occupy us. Spain were playing Germany. So we were glued. With Germany bottom of the group with a single point. That's why we were glued. I needed to use the facilities. I went first. Spain scored. You know, the toilet trick. It was in full flow, as it were. Then Mike went and Germany scored. So we took the sage manoeuvre. Neither of us moved for the rest of the game, lest we be blamed for the outcome. However, they staggered to the end and it was a 1-1 draw. All courtesy of us. Pleased to report that. Tesco surpassed themselves this week and brought everything that we wanted. I know, we were surprised as well. Don't think this week's going to end as well, do you? No, we've had to deploy a backup this week. That's how bad it was. Then it was Monday. Now, if you thought Black Friday was bad, I have renamed Monday for you. I know it's known as Cyber Monday, but judging by my inbox, which had over 400 emails in them, if I did a search on my inbox for the phrase last chance, about 399 of the mails had last chance in the subject. So I've renamed it Last Chance Monday. And I must admit, I went through them and I thought, unsubscribe, because you're just annoying me now. Now, also early in the morning, Lola was out, checking progress. Mike even moved the barrier for her so she could get beyond and have a real good old sniff. You'll notice the barriers are still in situ, but only just. If you look at the top right-hand side of that, someone's nicked one of the legs. But Lola's still keeping a close eye on proceedings. Sometimes, like every day, she seems to be the only one on site. Have you noticed that? She's literally, obviously she's the supervisor, but she's the only one there. Anyway, she'd had enough and decided that she's going to need to talk to them, clearly, because things aren't moving. So that took us to Tuesday. You made the mistake of going in the garden, didn't you? No one can hear you, so it's all right, because you told me to turn the microphone off. Right, so Tuesday, Mike got accosted by a gas man who wanted to come in. Yes, we thought we were past all that as well. He wanted to read the meter. Mike, that was in very ingenious of you, Mike. Mike took a photo. The ingenuity surpassed himself with that. He took a photo of the meter and shouted it out to the man, so he didn't actually have to come in, which was good news. Then it was on to the England match, the World Cup. It lacked atmosphere, did the match, but we won and we got through. So that was all that mattered. I was busy by this stage because on Wednesday we were having the Affinity publisher session. The technical issues I expected were with sharing the iPad, because when I did that the last time, it didn't end well. That was fine, but there were technical issues. We managed to crash the iPad's entire file management system in the middle of that, which had happened to me in rehearsals, but I thought, don't panic about it, just restart and it'll be fine. But in the middle of a live show, could well have done without it. That was me trying to upload the fonts. Luckily, I wasn't alone. So we decided to look on the positive side of it and declare that we'd found a known issue, or as we call it, a bug. The other thing that was fascinating during the session was people asking, did I use the Apple Pencil or did I use a different stylus? And for demonstration purposes, I always use a different stylus. But it's as old as the hills. It turned out I'd bought it in 2010 when I dug out the bill. That was what I was trying to describe to you. It is a Just Mobile Alu pen. They don't sell them anymore, but it's perfect. So it's sad that they don't sell that one anymore. They got replaced in 2012 with an Alu pen twist, which you'd need to use upside down. So it's got a pen in it and the thing's at the other end. The stylus is at the other end. So I must admit with that, no, that's not really what I would want. So I did the Google so you don't have to. And I found these, which while they're not just mobile, they do come in a range of colours and they look incredibly similar. So the one on the right-hand side looks identical to the one I've got. The beauty of this is these are £3.99 each instead of the obscene amount of money that I paid. So there's a whole range of links in there, Mike, one for each colour. So they're links to eBay. They're shipping from the UK. So I've ordered one I've ordered a silver one, because mine's silver, to see how similar to mine it is. At $3.99, I can afford to do that. Because if I need a replacement, I'm not going to be able to buy one anyway. So I figured I might as well try one of these. You could afford the whole lot while you're buying one of the others. So the links are in there for you. That's what I use. 1, it doesn't turn the iPad into scribble mode. And 2, it's shorter than the Apple Pencil, so I can hold it at the end. And 3, even better in demonstrations, it doesn't make a noise on the glass. So for 3 reasons, I choose to use one of those. Then, excitement, because we do love Advent. It was the 1st of December, which meant the Advent calendar, the MacBites Advent calendar, which was, as exclusively revealed last week, the Quirk-book. So you should have your Quirk-book now. If you do not have your Quirk-book, Mike will put a link in when he finds it. But that wasn't where the fun stopped on the 1st of December. We weren't even on holiday at that stage. It's 1,000 days, or it was on Thursday, that we have been marooned at MacBites headquarters. So we had an impromptu show, which was great fun. 90 minutes. Oh, we loved it. I hope you enjoyed it too. After that, we were back to the football. And I must admit, I was hoping Japan would do okay. Japan won. This is unheard of. Spain lost. That's because they were playing Japan. That's also pretty much unheard of. Then Germany won. That's what was expected. Costa Rica, because we're playing Germany, did not. But all of that meant, because of the previous games, it was the most exciting group. It was the most exciting finish to the matches, because it meant Japan and Spain went through. Japan going through was unexpected. And despite losing on the night, Spain went through, which had the knock-on effect that Germany went home. Whoa, that is unheard of. Obviously, Costa Rica went with them. So that was exciting last night. That was the most exciting night in the World Cup so far, I would have said. Mike's nodding. You can't hear him. So today, that meant day 2 of the MacBites Advent calendar, which was a triple header. There were 3 things today, so hopefully you've all got that. And we definitely need a drum roll for this one. Big news on the gas front. You will notice all the barriers have gone. That's the lamppost closest to our wall. Obviously, Lola's giving it one last check before signing it off. They've patched the pavement. They've done such an amazing job. You will never notice the join. So if you see the join, let me know in the chat. There you go. You can't see the join, can you? Is that the worst patch job you've ever seen? Seriously, no. You could have coloured that grey. Give us a fighting chance. But no, that's what it looks like now. I'm predicting complaints to the council, and they'll have to come back and do something with it. Yeah, we've got 2 new flags there. Why didn't you just add the rest as new flags? But at least we can get our own car out of our own gate. But you can't see the join, can you? And today we start our Christmas holiday. I know it's early. It gets earlier every year. But we are on holiday for a minimum of 5 weeks, I think. So my out of office is on. I'm loving it. Oh, I'm loving it. Now, I know it's been a while since we've had a crew holiday, but if you recall, the world does need warning when we decide to go on holiday, because disaster usually follows swiftly. So do keep aware. Right, now we're on to the request. So this request had come through in Slack, which is where we carry on the conversation. But just before we start, we have a request from one of our MacBites family, Patience, who is a teacher. You may remember last year, it was show 159, that she was looking for short videos showing Christmas traditions where you live. So she's got some from America and she's got this from the UK. She's looking for anywhere else. So what we provided was, I think it was about 3.5 minutes, and it was all to do with what we do in Manchester. Now, I don't think it matters whether you've got big things going on, like the big Manchester market that we have with the big Santa, or small things going on. They're just interested in traditions so the children can learn. So if you've got something special that you do, and it doesn't have to be anything like as special as what we told the world that the world did not know that Santa's reindeers live up the road from us, which they actually do. Santa's reindeers live on our doorstep. They're very tame as well, as you can see. But it can be personal stuff, any kind of tradition. So it could be the gift you get, like Mike with his tiny Toblerone. That's gone now. He devoured that. And the year before that, there was his guitar. Yeah, I did explain it needed to come out of the packet. And he's doing all right with that. But it could be your pets. That's Mayer. He set the tradition for his own turkey. He had an entire turkey all of his own. Lola hasn't managed an entire turkey, but look at those eyes. Who could fail to provide a turkey on demand for that face? And then we shared the video. So I'm requesting on behalf of Patience that if you have any traditions that you can share, please share them. Either you can contact Patience directly in Slack or let us know and we'll link you up. Patience is in the chat right now, I think. So the first thing you could give this Christmas is giving children the gift of experience. I mean, I don't know much about American Christmas, if there's special traditions. So I think it's a great idea. So good luck with that, Patience, and I hope you get lots of people volunteering. Right, so on with tonight. Craft update. These are good. Oh, these are good. These are really good. Right, Craft is a note-taking app. It started life as a Mac and iOS app. In fact, I think it went on iOS first. So with it being iOS first, you have complete fidelity between the desktop and your devices. And it's buttery smooth. It really is buttery smooth. It's a very, very good app. So we'll have a look at the new features. So let's pop in here and go to Craft. And it's all ready for me to share with you. Right, now Strictly's finished. I'll get rid of that. We don't need that going on in the corner. Right, this is my Craft setup. So obviously, looking forward to the next bit of the demo. It's parrot. In fact, it's parrot and colour-coded. So we're not interested particularly in here, in the structure of what's in it. It's the new features that they've added is what we're interested in. So let me have a look with what I'm starting with. What was I starting with? I think I was starting with the new... what's the word for them? I constantly forget the word for this, but there is a proper word for it. But basically it's the layouts. One of the things that people love about Notion, people say it's aesthetic. I actually think that Craft is even better looking than Notion. But Craft are adding layouts, although that's not the proper word for them. Let me find the proper word. Card types. Layouts is better. But the first thing they've done, so I'm going to go to the embedded files. If up till now you were adding files into Craft, if you add an image, it will add an image. If you add other files, it will add the other files. But it's struggled with two particular things. Now, not struggled in terms of you wouldn't see the files, but it would convert them. So I have two files here. I have a Photoshop file and I have an Adobe Illustrator file. And what it would do with these is it would convert the Illustrator file to a PDF and it would insert and convert the Photoshop file to a PNG, which isn't good if you're embedding it to say this is the source file. But now, we add this one first, it uploads it and it keeps it as a Photoshop file, and it does the same with the Illustrator file. I've picked ones that aren't that big. We don't want to be uploading 50 meg, so it shouldn't take that long, and there they are. And with the Illustrator file, you even have a preview. You have a preview because in Illustrator, by default, it saves a thumbnail with it that you can see, but it no longer converts these into other files, which means that people then have the option to download them. So if you are putting them in here with an explanation of what it is and says, here's the source file, people can now download the source file. So that was the first thing. Right. The second thing, I love these, I absolutely love these, is you've got card types. So if I show you this advanced photo books thing, This is the notes that I used for that session back in July. I actually couldn't believe that was that long ago, but it was. So I've got this, I've put the date in and I've got this link. So this is showing as a link, but underneath that is all the demonstrations. So I separated them out and each of these is a card. So the top one is the session setup, what apps I need running, what else I need to do. And then I've got all of the demonstrations. So to save time, I have a blank version of the card here. And what I can do with that is just swiftly duplicate it. Go on, do it for me. Well, don't then. No, you're not doing it, are you? That's going into it. You can duplicate it. It's just in one of its modes. So I duplicate that, which means I don't have to take the time to choose the layout of the card and colour code it. So this one here that says additional demos, I would like one of these that says additional demos, and then I've got text in there that I would like to put in it as additional demos. So to do that, I position my cursor in there, and then over here, I've got the ability to turn it into a card. So I click on card, it takes the text and gives me a preview of what that card may look like. So this is if it's a tiny card with a tiny preview. As I move across, I've got a bigger preview, an even bigger one, a wider one, and what I call the full preview, which gives you an entire page here. And you can see as I'm moving, it's previewing it. Right, so I find the preview, I like it if it's darker, so something like that usually works quite well. Now, once I've moved to this kind of size, in fact, I'm going to, should I convert it? No, we'll leave it at that one. Once you're at this size, you get different options. So as you scoot back through these, you're getting fewer options as you go, but the colour does stay with it. So I will just say apply style, and it takes the two words, the one line of text, and converts it into a card. If I double click the card, it's like drilling down into it, and you can see that from the breadcrumbs at the top. So going back to the advanced photo books. All this text was what I wanted in that card. So if I then select all of that text and drag and drop it over that card, you can see the card lights up on the outside with blue, and it puts that text in there, and you can see it on this preview. So if I double click it, the text in exactly the same format as is in there. And on the outside of it, the preview has the same text. So this is text that you can see here. And this is why I like it to be a darker colour. If it's like a pale colour, it's difficult to read the text. And this gives you the preview. Now, you click the three dots, you go back in and you can tweak it. So if you go backwards, you can see you can get just the top of a preview on that one. And as you go back, a smaller preview. And that one is, it doesn't really give you a preview, it just has the colour inside the icon. Now, while we're looking at this one, you can see that the preview at the top is giving me two options. It says previews, and one is showing that icon, and the other is showing an emoji. So it replaces the preview with an icon. You get to decide what icon. So you can choose in here. So if this was your inbox, for example, you could choose the emoji that's actually displayed there. So that's one thing that you can do. Now these are a proper preview as we move across. And what they've done is, as I've moved across here, instead of having two options under the preview, which is a standard preview and the icons, so that's what that would look like, and you can choose, again, you choose the emojis. You've got an additional three. These are all new. So there's one that shows you a double page. So from that, if you want to squint at it, you can see the entire text in there because it's like a double page. I like this one, which is like a note. I think that's kind of cool. I look at that as like a post-it note and think it looks like a checklist. So for this one, I would probably leave that with that preview. But you come out of here and go to the top. This first one, the session setup, is like a checklist. And so for that one, if I go into there and I choose that, that makes much more sense. With this size, I see the top of the checklist. If I want to see it as a whole checklist, I can put it there and that would give me a proper preview. I don't think that one's bad, so I'll apply the style. So those are the 3 things that are new. We've seen 2. Let's head off down here. So these demo images were created on the night with this. Yeah, I was going to Seattle, wasn't I? I remember that. See Kim. But we're just waiting till COVID's a thing of the past. It could be a while yet. So I've got these images and they're in here as demo images. So my text at the top, I'm going to do exactly the same with that and turn it into a card. And then I'm going to move across these, and you see I only need the tiny one to have all 5 options available. But it makes sense to go for the big one. Right, I can put a colour on it if I want, so let's make it like a purpley thing. And then pick this last one, which is images. And that gives me 3 images. Obviously, they're blank at the moment. But don't forget, this card has no content at the moment. It will do shortly, but it doesn't right now. So we will apply the style to that. There it is. And as we go and add these images, so we'll pick up this image and we will drop it in the demo images, it starts populating it with proper little images. There we go. So those are 3 different views for the cards. If I go into here, you'll see the images listed in there and you can move these around. Logic would say it picks the first 3. Let's see if it does. It does. It updates to the first 3. So the ones you want to see on here, put them at the top. But that tidies it up for me if I'm using this as a demo. So what I do when I'm using Craft, which at the moment, my stuff isn't in Craft at the minute, but these were and they worked. I create a session setup dialog to start with in the card at the top. Then each individual demonstration gets its own treatment. Extra demonstrations that I didn't use are nested. So you can see a preview, but if you were to go in there, these are the extra demos that I didn't actually use on the night. And my images that I've done there are now at the bottom. So instead of just being strewn at the bottom or hidden away where I couldn't even see them, they're now a nice little preview. So I think there are some really nice updates. That's good as far as it goes. So who does use Craft? How many said they used Craft? Mike's fallen off his twig.
Nobody's mentioned they used Craft. Somebody said they tried it and couldn't get on with it.
It is a bit, you'll love it or loathe it. And I find it useful for specific things. The sharing's great. And the layouts are nice. But
Deborah Benstead said she's just started looking at it.
It is beautiful. It is a beautiful app. There's a lot of attention to detail in there. Whereas with some apps, you get an update and it breaks something. You know, they do tend to add functionality rather than break something. But I've saved the best for last. So I'm going back to my inbox. That was all the new cards, but I'm going back to the inbox. Right. I have a blog article, a blog post up there, which is called Exit Strategy, which we will be looking at shortly. I wrote it a couple of years ago about what do you do when an app that you rely on dies a sad death. And this was what I wrote. So I've copied and pasted it in here for a reason. It's long enough, it might benefit from a summary. So I'd go to the top and I'd press enter and I'd just type in summary.
Leather's using it.
Oh, Carol's using it. Excellent. Then you might find this useful. So this would be my summary. So I'd put that as a heading. And underneath this, I'd be looking to summarise it. Well, the big addition is AI, artificial intelligence. Now, they're really pushing this Craft because they've rolled it out to everybody. Notion have created a waiting list for it, and I think I was 22,000 and something on the list. So sometime never then. But they've rolled it out to absolutely everybody. You have 100 requests a month on a paid account. On a business account, I think it's 250 or 280, something like that. So I have been very frugal testing it. I think I've only done 2 and Mike's done 1. So I can use it on the night. And if you want to test it with anything, then I'm prepared to type it in and we'll see what we get. So I'm looking to create a summary of this. So I type the /. The very first thing that's listed is the assistant, and that's the AI. So I press enter at that point and it says, what do you want to do? And it gives me some ideas. Do you want to soften the tone? Do you think it's Reddit? Well, was I too vehement? Do you want to strengthen the tone? Brainstorm ideas. Write an article about this topic. Write a Facebook post about this. Write a Twitter post. Write a poem about it. I mean, honestly, it goes on and on. You can get information about the assistant from the left-hand side, and you can see I've got those 98 requests left on the right-hand side. But what I want with this is to create a summary. And so if I type create summary, I mean of this article. I don't know if I need to add that. Let's assume not and go for it and see what kind of summary we get. Well, it's not done bad, but it's based it on the words exit strategy. So it says it's a plan that outlines a business or entrepreneur will exit their current business venture, and it's not. It's not. So it's not perfect, not by a long way. For a summary, I would suggest it's going to pick keywords and then write randomly about them. But, you know, you can copy this, you can share it, or you can insert it into the document. So if we were to assume that, I mean, it is in English, so it doesn't read like a robot, but it's just not accurate in relation to the article. It's picked keywords and written about that. But I will insert it into the document. And there is my summary there. So I don't need that blank line. Don't know why that's in there. And this is where the article starts. So I'm just going to put start so we can see it. But that is what it can do in terms of supposedly reading an article and giving you a summary of it. I think how accurate that is going to very, very much depend on what's in here. But I thought, what else can it do? So I went out and I typed in, tell me about Holland. Write me a blog post about Holland. And it did. And I read it and I thought, actually, that's pretty decent. That is decent. So if what you are charged with is writing a blog post about something, then I wouldn't rely on it in terms of, well, that'll do. That's my article. But I think it's a brilliant start. So while you have a ponder of that, we should ask Renee how accurate that is. But that is what it managed for me. Mike then got a brilliant idea and said, well, if I said to it exactly the same thing, would I get exactly the same text? So I had typed in, write me a blog post of 500 words about Holland. And that is what it said. So Mike typed in exactly the same thing and got something different. So it does make sense that it randomizes it, because otherwise, you know, if 500 people want to write 500 word blog posts about Holland, they're all going to be the same. So it does start differently. The information in there, like the tulip fields, and I think the first one mentioned the Anne Frank house. I don't think this second one does. So it's different information as well. So I suppose if you did want 500 words and then you think, oh, hang on, you've missed out this, it might be better to ask for more words, again, as a starting point, and then edit it down to what you need. But I didn't think that was bad. So I thought live on the night, right, we'll get a new document and we'll type it. So what country should we pick? What country should... Not Holland, we've done Holland.
Cameroon.
Oh, come on, Mike. Wow. Wow. Okay, Cameroon. Right, Cameroon. So what I need to do is go into the body of it, /. You can either press A for the assistant, but the assistant's at the top, just press enter, and then ask it something. So rather than using the things that it's got at the bottom, I'm actually going to say what I want. So write a 500 word blog post about Cameroon. I wonder if it'll have it in there already that they've beaten Brazil. Right. Watch the screen. So I've told it what I want. And the text underneath where it says Ask Craft, write a 500-word blog post about Cameroon, the symbol next to it is the enter key. So as soon as I press that, that is what it will do. But keep watching, because you will actually see it write it. So it has a think about it. Obviously, Cameroon's trickier than Holland. To the point it's struggling, Mike. Oh no, there we go. I would suggest most of that information is coming from Wikipedia, but I don't know. But it actually writes it out. So as, you know, if I was at school now and I got that as an assignment, oh, wow. Because it might not, I wouldn't hand that in. There you go. The national team has competed in several major tournaments, including the World Cup. I don't think they're up to date with the fact they've literally just won, but there's enough information in there to give you a really good start about what you would like to write. So I think as a preliminary research thing, that's pretty decent. So I will insert that into the document, and there is, I would say that's my research on Cameroon. It would give me a starting point if I were doing an assignment. So I'd be looking at the World Cup and how they've done. I'd be looking at the activities, so trekking and river rafting, fishing and bird watching, all things I wouldn't do on pain of death. But there you go. It's a starting point, and it's a fairly accurate starting point that you know, because it's been generated with the assistant, it's not copied directly from anywhere. It is created for you, as we've established. Now, oh, Carol says Iceland. Let's do Iceland. Iceland's a lovely, interesting country. I've got a lot of Scandinoir books all about Iceland, so that's a good one. So we'll do the same thing. Move down, / takes you to the assistant. Press the assistant, and then say, write a 500. I'm only saying 500 words. Because it's actually typing it. We don't want to be here all day. About Iceland. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Do you think it'll do the country or the shop, Mike? We have a shop in this country called Iceland that sells frozen food. No, it's all right. It's a Nordic island. North Atlantic, etc., etc. There we go. So, you know, if you were wanting an overview all about Iceland, I think it is a great start. Oh, this is going to be amazing in future years.
An invitation to go to Seattle.
Mike, you told me to turn your microphone off. Right, you're back on again.
We've had an invitation to go to Seattle.
Yay!
From Ken.
Oh, thank you. Just need to be able to leave the house first, don't we?
Mm.
Yeah. We've now got something in this country called iGas, which is, I can't remember. Can you look up what that is? But it's a gastrointestinal thing, and children are dying with it. So it's shocking over here. It really, never mind COVID, we've now got something else. Right, so I'm going to insert that into the document. Come on. I definitely clicked. There we go. Now, one thing you can do, and I'm not quite sure how you would do that on here. I'll try doing it underneath it and see if it understands. But I should be able to type in translate to. Now, what shall we translate it to? Should we try Dutch? Not that I'd know if it was good or bad, but to be honest, unless it's in English, I wouldn't know if it was good or bad. So let's ask it to translate into Dutch. And what I'm looking for is that article. So there it is, translating as we go. So if you can read Dutch, do let us know how that's looking.
Is there anyone in here that could read Dutch, do you think?
Renee might be able to, I'm not sure.
You reckon?
Oh, Richard says, strep A, bacterial illness. Yeah, I mean, it sounds horrific. I remember being very ill as a child with that. And when I read the symptoms, I thought, oh, yeah, that was it. But, it's rough. It is very bad.
Renee said it looks good.
Oh, excellent. So I'm going to insert that into the document. And there we go. I mean, obviously, I'm getting a lot of underlining because I've not got Dutch as a language on the system. But I can't tell you how good that is or not. But it does do translations. So I have other ways to translate, but I think the fact that it can do that in a document is just genius. It's clever, that. That is clever. So, and we've got it approved that, yes, it looks like Dutch. You know what? When I translate mentally from French into English, the words aren't in the right order. I think more so than knowing what the words are is syntactically how they hang together that confuses me. I like precise languages, like computer languages. But that is what you can do with it. So you can ask it many, many things. And as I've said, I think as a starting point, it's fantastic. I would then hair off and do more research. But as a starting point, can't be beaten. And if the translations are in any way accurate, I mean, any kind of machine translation, you're not going to get 100%. Some languages don't have words that other languages have. What's that program? Spiral. It's called Spiral in the UK, but in French, it's engrenage. And we don't have an equal word. So it means like wheels within wheels. So the nearest English word would be spiral. So there'll be issues like that, but it's only going to get better over time, and they are letting you have 100 requests a month. Whereas Notion have put a waiting list there. So at the end of their promotional video, Craft, very snarky, they've put, we've rolled the feature out, not given you a waiting list. And I thought, ooh, meow. So, yeah, that's Craft. It is beautiful. I do love it. It feels that my data is locked inside Craft, whereas it's locked inside Notion as well, to be honest. But Notion has databases, Craft does not. So that's why our show organisation is in Notion. So this would be for either personal notes or notes that are shared with Mike. We do have, so this is my space, but I also have a Giles Thomas space with Mike. And in here, we have the reviews of the year. So that's what we do together with it. Let's see one that we've done. We did 2020, didn't we? I think we did. So this is the review of the year. And that's how we organise it. And the reason that we do that in here and nowhere else is the output is fabulous. So we can literally be at the top of the review of the year like this. And we can do an output, so where we share it, you can output it to a HTML page, and instead of just giving you 12 blocks, it actually exports everything that's in them. And the reason that we've separated them out in here is because previously the only way we could do this and create one web page was to have all 12 months in the same article, and it was just chaotic. You couldn't fold it up or anything. So Craft is the only app that we use for the review of the year. So pretty much that's the only thing together we use it for, but it's perfect for it. Absolutely perfect. So Craft is very, very good. It will either click with you or it won't. I've got some friends who've tried it and said like, no way. And I've got other friends who are like, oh, it's the best thing ever. So it really does just depend on how your brain works. I've used everything. Evernote, Notion, OneNote, Craft, you name it, I've used it. The one that felt to me, wow, this is it, is Obsidian. Despite the fact Obsidian is incredibly close to Rome, it was Obsidian that was this is it. Rome was good, Obsidian was better. But some people hate it. It just depends on how you work. But having seen what Craft can do, it's maybe one of those apps in the way that I use it, which is I'll use it when I need it. So if I'm stumped for my Ship 30 in January, I know where I'm heading. Write me 350 words about X, and then I'll edit it and call it done. Let's see if you can tell if I do that with any of them. Right, so that is Craft. Do we have any questions about Craft?
Carol, not on Craft. Carol says, have you tried Tana? It's as though Notion and Rome have had a baby. Yes,
it is. It's a weird one, that. My problems with that is the lack of an app and the fact that my data's in their cloud. Whereas with Obsidian, I do pay for sync. And that's a caveat. I do pay for sync. And no, I've never talked about Obsidian, but I did get about 6 requests to talk about Obsidian. So if Obsidian's something that you'd be interested in, now I'm actually using it, let me know.
Patience says she loves Obsidian. She's using it for journal. And Deborah Benstead's trying to move from Evernote.
Evernote has its place, but now they've been bought out as well, and they've not really said where they're heading with it. Everyone gets worried, and I totally understand that. Evernote served me well for years. If I had to use it, I could. It's just Obsidian works like the way my brain does. You need to find the app that works the way that you do. Unless you're like, I've no idea which is the best way for me to work. In which case, try all the apps and see which ones feel like an extension of you, rather than fighting with it constantly. I mean, OneNote was great until I went below the fold and couldn't find a thing. Evernote, I had thousands of notes in, but you had to become an absolute genius with the search syntax to be able to find what you were looking for, because it didn't give you much in the way of organisation. You've got a stack and you've got a notebook, and beyond that you're in tags. And then you have to become a whiz with the tags as well. That I was creating, instead of having like one group of tags, I mean, ultimately you have one group of tags, but if you preface them with words, then you create subgroups of tags. But, you know, you shouldn't have to get down to that level. So, no, Obsidian's where I'm at the moment. Let's put it like that. Oh, Patience wants an Obsidian tutorial. Awesome. Right. Michael, add it to the list.
I already have done.
And Carol's signed up for Ship 30. I was in a Ship 30 session today. It was amazing. Mind you, I was rather pleased and need to pass on my thanks to you guys. When I shared the free book that they'd put out 2 weeks ago, I said, click on the link, click on the link. There was a competition for who got the most clicks on the link. And out of all the people in Ship 30, I came in 10th, which I didn't think was bad. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for clicking the link. I did not get any money for that whatsoever, but I got an invitation to a private Q&A for everybody who got a certain number of clicks. So I was very, very pleased with that. Right, okay. This one a bit quirky, but, we are a bit quirky, aren't we? Right, colour management. I don't mean colour management as in I'm trying to make X equal Y. I have a need constantly to quickly know what number, what hex code a colour is on my screen. Now, if you're working in a design app, it probably has colour tools. But if you're not, or you're trying to pick up a colour and do something else with it before you get to your design app, you have problems. So, I had an app. It was positively perfect. I've got this. I've done this in the wrong order, but never mind. We'll stick with it, and Para will be next. Don't let me move on without Para, Mike. Obviously, a slide has disappeared. Right. I had this dealt with. I had a standalone application, and it was brilliant. It's called Colour Snapper 2. I did a demonstration of it. I think it was about a year ago, and I explained why it was so good. It lets you pick up colour from anywhere on the screen. It transfers the hex code to your clipboard. Genius, just total genius. It needed for me to be activated with a system-wide hotkey, which it was. It shows you a magnifying glass and you can pick up whatever you want. It supports multiple monitors. It was genius. Now, it did not die. That's the good news. But, sad panda for everything else. I purchased it via the Mac App Store. That's important to me because with it being a utility like that, if I want to put that on another computer, I don't want to be doing the license dance. To me, it's a utility. It's a small utility. And when I install it, I need it on every computer. So Mac App Store meant I could do just that. I get a new computer. This was probably this time last year because our computers arrived the first week in December. I think it was the night before we finished for Christmas. Genius, it was. And I went to the App Store and I thought, Colour Snapper, wasn't there. I thought, you're kidding me. And I immediately thought it had died. It hadn't, but they had removed it from the App Store. That was one strike. The second strike was, it went subscription. I know, subscription for a colour picker. And it was really expensive. Subscription for a colour picker. I mean, literally, it was ludicrous to the point of I started thinking that a Creative Cloud subscription was a bargain by comparison. They did make me an offer. I could get the version directly from them if I bought it. Just a minute, I've already bought it. So I could pay again for an app I'd already purchased, and then I could carry on using it. Others must have felt exactly the same as I did, which was you're dead to me. What I did was I managed to get the last version that was in the App Store from my previous purchases, and I installed that. But the subscription did not last long. It went back to a non-subscription purchase. To be honest, at that stage, it was just very confusing as what you were actually buying. It turned out you were buying one license for one computer. Now, that's still more expensive, a lot more expensive than a Mac App Store license for all the Macs you've got. It's still available. It's $17.99 per computer. $17.99 per computer. It was last updated in 2020, so I started getting twitchy. I gave up. It was time to find an alternative, which takes me to my app strategy thing. What do I do when an app is either on the way out or it's on the way out to me? So Michael put the link in for that blog post. The key to it is making 3 lists. So obviously mine are in Obsidian, but yours could be anywhere. The first list is the must-have features list. If the app I'm thinking of replacing the app that is dying doesn't have these features, I can't use it. It must have these. So I needed to pick a colour from the screen. That was fairly basic, but I needed to do it with a shortcut key. I do not want to be going up to a menu somewhere and incanting something. It must be able to copy it in hex format. And it must be able to copy that to the clipboard. I don't just want it going inside the app. I want that putting on the standard clipboard. Then I need to see the whole interface of the app with a shortcut key. And I would like to choose which shortcut keys as well. I need to access the recent colour captures, because if I can't, I've got to go back and pick them again. So something that picked one colour and then when I picked another, the first one dropped off the end, that wouldn't do either. And I needed the option to change the format. So if for some reason I'm not working with hex numbers, I'm working with something else, then I need to be able to, inside the app, switch. Those were the absolute must-haves. The second list is the nice-to-have features. You'll notice with these lists, they get shorter, not longer. So the nice-to-have features were, it would be nice if I could create palettes with it, but it wouldn't be death to it if I couldn't. But it would be nice if I could do that. If it had an iOS companion app, that too would be grand, because I'd be able to capture via the camera and create palettes via the camera. So they were nice to haves though. There are other ways I can do that if I need to. But if the same app could do that, that would be cool. And then there's the third and final list, which is the extra features. So extra features are things that the one that I have got does not do. I can obviously live without them. They didn't even fall into the nice to have. They were just extras. So custom formats and contrast checking. So I went through a few apps and I settled on Colour Slurp to try it. It's available from the Mac App Store, which means I don't have to concern myself with subscriptions or multiple licenses and all that that entails. So the too long didn't read version, I switched from Colour Snapper 2 to Colour Slurp, and I will be showing you Colour Slurp. Now, it is a paid-for app, but it's not horrifically expensive. It's free to download and test, and then pricing-wise, it's $6.99 for the Mac version, but at the moment it's on sale for $4.99. And there is an iOS app that is £3.49. Spoiler, I bought the lot. It's fabulous. So let's go and have a look at it. Right, it's running now. It's running all the time. It runs on startup, but you don't see it. So I have it running from my menu up here. It's hidden with Bartender because it isn't anything that I mean, you can see how many icons I have. I've not hidden them for the demo. That's me. That's all the icons I ever have up there. And if I could nuke that orange dot, trust me, I would. Hate the orange dot. The orange dot means that the audio system is in use. I don't need to see that. I press the button, but Apple won't let me hide it. Even on my slides, they won't let me hide it. But I'll get over it in the end, or not. But also, inside Bartender, I have a load of stuff running. So if I click on here, it should load in Bartender. Come on. Why are you not doing that? There we go. It did it and then hid it. So you can see I've got a load of stuff running. But I don't have showing in there. They're the ones that I would interact with. The ones that I would need to open up and click and do something with. But I don't have in there my colour slurp, because that is not how I access it. But you can if you need to. But Bartender has an amazing ability for you to set a shortcut key and access anything that's running, even if you have totally hidden the icon. So I've made a custom shortcut key, which should bring that up. That is my Bartender search. It's not Alfred, it's only searching Bartender. So I'm looking for colour slurp. Type that in, press enter, and it brings it to the front in my menu, and it shows me half the interface. When I click away, it will sit there for 30 seconds because that's Bartender, and it will disappear again. I don't even use the Bartender way to access that because I don't need to. If you remember on the must-have list, the must-have list was I must be able to bring it to the front in two ways. One, to select a colour, and two, to access the application. So it's just disappeared. I'm going to select a colour first. So I have a shortcut key, and when I use that shortcut key, you can see it brings up this, like a loop really, that you're going to be able to make a selection with, a magnifying glass. And so if I hover over the apple, can I get as far as the apple? There's the apple. You can see it's not actually pure white, but I will leave it down here and click. And what it's done at that stage is it's copied the hex code to the clipboard for me to paste into any app that I would like to colour code that with. So we will go into Affinity Designer 2 and I will make a square and I will make sure that that is the colour that the square is. Go on, you know you can do it. Right. So we will get a square. There we are. And in the colours up here, why are you on CMYK? That's ridiculous. I should be able in there to just paste and press enter, and that is how you use it. So it's completely faceless as far as I'm concerned when it comes to picking colours. Now, obviously, if you're in Affinity Designer, you have the ability to click and hold on the eyedropper and drag around, and whatever colour you would like, you can pick it up that way. And even faster, you only need to click it to apply it to the shape. But PowerPoint doesn't work like that, Keynote doesn't work like that, and that's why I want a global solution. So even if I am in Affinity Designer, where I've got all of the options up there, it's still actually faster to do it the colour slurp way. So activating colour slurp, choose something in here. Let's get that aquary colour. Where's our aquary colour? There it is. Click on there, click the shape, over there, paste it in, press enter. So it means that although some applications have a way of doing it, I don't need to know the 17 different ways that 17 different applications work. I just use colour slurp and be done. So let's come out of that one. No, we don't need to save it. And see the other global shortcut key. Now, the global shortcut keys that I'm using are Command, Option and Control. Now that sounds, oh good grief, there's 3 of them. We just say 3. It's the bottom 3 on the left-hand side. The bottom 3. And then I use the square bracket, the left square bracket, to select a colour. So I've just done that shortcut key, and that gives me that. I will copy that. And the other shortcut keys, the same 3 keys, Command, Option and Control, and the right bracket key. And that brings up the application's interface. On the wrong screen, but it brings it up. So this is the interface of the application. Before I go through all of that, I'm going to show you the preferences. So there isn't an option in there to get to the preferences, I don't think. It's definitely not one of the top 4. So what I do is just use the standard command and comma, and that brings up the preferences. Right, we'll leave it alongside it. Right. The first option is to sync the palettes with iCloud. It does actually sync. Yes, I was surprised as well. But it does. It syncs the palettes that you have created with iCloud. So even if you're using only the desktop version, it will synchronise between computers. If you have the iOS version, it will synchronize with that as well. I've got it set to a dark theme, but you can have it set to a light theme. From memory, it wasn't pretty. Oh, good grief. So no, I went dark with that. I've got it set to open at login. It says keep it on top. It does make sense to me to have this when I do bring it to the top. When I activate it, that I do want it to the top. You can show the app icon either in the menu bar, the dock, or both. I only have it in the menu bar, but like I said, if there was a faceless option, I would go for that. I only have it in there because it's the least intrusive way. Right. It does give you a copy notification when it's copying a colour. Now, I wouldn't normally have a notification showing, to be honest. I would take the tick out of that. But the copy sound, I just love it. I don't like it when my computer makes any beeps or noises. I really don't. But the slurp is kind of comforting. It does sound like a slurp. And it's comforting to know it has actually copied it. So I did leave that. You can have none, and there are a couple of others, but the slurp is just perfect. The bit at the bottom is telling you that you can download this for iOS. So there is an iOS version of it. The most important thing in here, as far as I'm concerned, is the shortcuts. I am not interested in anything other than these two. So I knew what was in there. I have no idea what the default shortcuts are. I had been using these two shortcuts with Colour Snapper. So I wanted it to be a painless transition. I didn't even notice because most of the time I'm not looking at the interface. So it didn't matter to me what was actually doing it as long as the app had a future and that it was being updated and I didn't have to worry about licensing and all of the other surrounding issues. So my show colour slurp is the right bracket. So it's the three keys, Command, Option and Shift, Control, and the right bracket. And just to show the magnifier is the left square bracket. And that's it. In the formats, you can have preferred formats. So my preferred one is hex, followed by CSS RGB, and this one is hexa. You can choose whether you put in the hash sign or not. Most apps will take it without the hash sign. So rather than fiddle, I just said, no, don't use it. You can, if you want, force the hex codes to be lowercase, and you can round any colours. But what I think is clever in here is that you can have colour formats of your own. So if you're working with something and the colour code isn't in here, and to be honest, when you look at what's available, there's quite a lot available. But if what you need is not, then you can make up your own. Then you can configure the magnifier. So when you're using this, I want Colour Slurp to be hidden. Now, most of the time it's not showing in the first place, but I still put that in there. You can then decide whether you want to show the full interface, which is what you're looking at on the left of the preferences, which I don't, just copy it, be done. And then copy the colour when picked to the clipboard, so which I've got turned on. I have said display the value in the magnifier, so as I'm moving across the screen, so if I bring that up now, as I'm moving across the screen, we can see that I've got a hex code underneath it and it's changing as I move. Like that. So that's what that's all about. Right, where have you disappeared to? Let's have you back. Right. You can change the shape of the magnifier. Now, you could have it as a circle, and I think Colour Snapper was a circle. I left it as a rounded square to remind me that I switched apps. Made sense to me, what can I say? You can change the level of the zoom and you can change the magnification size as well. So if you wanted this to be huge, let's take that up and activate it again. It's much bigger. So that's what that is referring to. I prefer that a little bit smaller. That's what you've got in there. And then you've got colour profiles. So I don't think I've touched that. I think that's the default. Then you've got your Pro features. Now, it is a free app, so you can download and try it. When you purchase, these are the features that you get in the Pro version. So the export and the generation and the cloud sync was worth it to me. And I thought it was quite, well, trust me, it's less than one seat of Colour Snapper all over. That includes my iPads, my phones, my desktops, the whole works. So I just got the lot. I love to support developers that put stuff out like that don't make it difficult for me. It's not difficult to make that decision, I can assure you. So those are the preferences. The most important things are the two keys that you choose. Don't just go for something easy, because if you go if you install another app, and that app, I mean, I've got a problem with Scrivener. Scrivener has a default key to show the scratch pad, which clashes with Hindenburg. That's fine, I'll change it in Hindenburg. You can't change the Hindenburg shortcut keys, so it's going to have to be changed in Scrivener. So I determined, like, what shortcut keys make sense to me, what can I remember that isn't likely to be used in any other app. And that's how I landed on those two, and I've stuck with them. Right, so that's the preferences. You've seen me pick a colour. That's not difficult. Let's have a look at what else you've got in here. One of my requirements, if you remember, was the recent colours that I've selected, and that is what you've got shown at the bottom. All of these. So this is my desktop colour. That is that button that we picked from Affinity Designer. The dark blue ones are the MacBites After Hours navy blue. Heaven knows what I've been picking with everything else, but that's what I've got in the recent colours. So it gives me a preview at the top here of my colour. It shows it me in the hex code. It shows it me here. I can change these if I want to. And it shows you down here, so you can tweak it slightly. So if you wanted to tweak that down to being pinkish, you can see you're getting at the top the new colour and the old colour at the bottom. So let's take that across there. And when I move over it, it expands the stripe at the bottom, so you've got more of a comparison. So you can tweak it in that kind of way. Right, now we'll start with the bottom bits, so the recent colours. If I click on that, you can see in here I've got a range of palettes. MacBites is fairly obvious, it's the MacBites stuff. This one was me playing around, and it was actually the Senegal Netherlands game, hence Senned. That was what it said at the top of the screen. I thought that'll do. Then there's the Excel trainer that I have for Mike. This was from a photo. These are my video assets, and this is what I use in PowerPoint. They're my default colours, and in PowerPoint they're called Progress. So if I click one of these, it shows you that entire palette at the bottom of the window. And from there, you can click that, and now you're ready to work with it. So you see, you get a preview at the top. So let's have a look at the MacBites one. This is our blue. I haven't actually put the oranges in and stuff yet. Should we have a look what the Senegal Netherlands one was? There we go. That's quite nice. I could work with that one, to be honest. And what was our wardrobe haze thing? Yeah, hazy and a bit boring, basically. But these are the palettes that I've got in here. These palettes synchronize with iOS and vice versa. And that's what you've got at the bottom. I tend to have that left at recent. I'm most likely to be wanting to go in and go back 2 or 3 colours. So you can see this is the MacBites orange. So I would add that. Right, across the top, the first option you have is to make a selection. So I'll go and select a blue over on the other screen where I've got Audio Hijack. Now you could have that automatically come back, but I don't, because I know it's copied to the clipboard. But that is what the first button does, which is the eyedropper. Right, then I've got the editor. So if I go into that, that's where we are. This is the editor. I can tweak the colours. I can check out colours. This is the editor. Third option is really useful. It wasn't on my must-have. It's the contrast checker. And you can see it's saying that this would fail. It would fail if your background was orange and your text was white because there's not enough contrast. Which, given that I can read that really clearly, I wouldn't otherwise know. So, over on this side, I might need to change the colours. So if I change that to the MacBites blue, you can see it gets a AAA excellence because you've got high contrast between them. So that is actually more useful than I would have thought. If I was in 2 minds with a colour, I would run it through this and see what it looked like. And you can, of course, tweak this, and you can see it then drops it because, no, that's not quite as good. And if you get down to silly, then it will fail. So it's interactive. It keeps you going, keeps updating as you make changes to it. If you've got a fail on it, so how are we going to do that? Let's take it and make it pale. So if it's failed, you get this fix button and you can fix it. And it will take it down to the most similar colour that would pass the contrast test, which again, that's really useful. That is really useful. The last option that you've got here is the palettes. And these are the palettes. So you've seen the names of them. This is where they are. So from in here, if I click on this one, which is our ridiculously named, but what can I say? Right, in here, you can go into them, and it is actually showing you what colours they are. This actually came from a photo, which I'll show you how to do. But that's what I didn't put these names in. It came from as I was selecting them. This one I think is Mike's. So Mike has his green and his yellow. And if I click on that green and we go into there, you can see the actual code. So it's 008037, which I'm aware of. But I can bring this up and I can leave it sat there. And if I'm switching, I can just copy. So copy the yellow, copy the green. If we go back into here, they don't appear as recents. This is the picked recents rather than what you've done in here recents. That's just the way it works. But there are the colour palettes. And you can add to those if you want. You can change them, etc., etc. Now, you can make a new palette at the top. So we could make this and we could call that demo. Right. And you can go and pick a colour. So I'll pick my desktop colour and it adds it. It's called Danube. And we'll stick with that. Then I'll go for a new colour. So there is a difference here. This is the colour picker. It will let you pick a colour. This one will let you type it in. So if you know what the colour actually is, so Mike's is 008037, and I press enter, then I can add that. Oh, it's known as Fun Green. Well, Mike thinks Excel's fun, so there you go. They're terrible. They clash terribly. But that is how you would add that. Right, the other option for adding it is that you can pull it in from a photo. But there's a better way to do that. But you can generate a palette from a photograph. So that is what I do on desktop. And I do find it incredibly useful. I would not want to live without that. Let's put it like that. So shall we have a look at the iPad version? Well, I'll show it on iPhone. Right. So fingers crossed this all works. Oh no, it's on a VPN. Well, fingers crossed. Let's see if it works. Screen mirroring to Mohawk. Why not? Right, and somewhere in here, there we are. There it is at the end. Right, so I'm going to go into Colour Slurp. You will see exactly the same palettes, including the demo one that I just created. It literally just loaded that in. So these are all the palettes. You have the ability at the top to add, but you can see at the bottom as well, you also have a camera. So if I tap on the camera, here's my desk. There's my water bottle. Right, I'm going to point it at this here. That way we've got some colours. So you can just hit the plus. So if you're hovering like this, you can hit the plus and it'll randomly pick one, but I'm not holding it that steady. So the other thing that you can do is you can tap the button to take a photo. So we've now tapped it and it's frozen it. So this thing in the middle, you can now move around. So I've already got the purple, but this enables me to pick it from a photo by just moving that around. So we'll go for a nice blue there, Pacific blue, and tap the plus to add that. Move it to the top. We'll go and get that. We'll go for the horrible pink. It's a dirty pink, that, isn't it? Oh dear. And we'll go for the very dark red that's up there, rust red. No fallow red. And what else have we got down here? We should have a green. We'll go for a fairly light green, limeade. And what we've got next to it? Oh, the yellow. Let's go for the yellow, which is corn. Not the best palette I've ever seen, but it's a palette and it's from a photo. And if you want to change that, so if you wanted to, let me point it at my iPad. So let's tap on that. There's my iPad. So get it to a point where I've got all the icons on there that I want to demonstrate. Tap the button in the middle. It will freeze, and that is Flame P. Let's add Flame P. And go and get a purple from up there. So incredibly useful if you've got something in front of you that you want to do that with. So I've now got my palette there. Right, save that. So do I want to add it to a new palette? Add to an existing or create a new. I'm going to create a new one. It's called Untitled. I should be able to name that by double tapping on it. We'll call that Demo and rename it. And now when I go back into my palettes, oh, I've got 2 demos and it didn't mind. Oh, that's not bad, is it? Let's open it up and do Demo iPhone. We don't want to confuse the poor thing. Right, like that. Awesome. So that is it on the iPhone and or an iPad. So let's come out of there. Oh, now we're in here. You don't want to come out, do you not? Well, guess what you are doing. Right, let's bring back what we had. You saw a little flash next to the palettes option at the top here, and that was where it was loading in the demo from the iPhone, which was there. So that is what we've got there. Right, now this demo iPhone palette that we've got, they are hideous, aren't they? Could have done better. Right, we've got it named, we've got the colours, all the colours are named. If we need, I mean, that one is shocking. That one is really bad. If you want to change that, let's make it a little bit more pinky. My pink, there we go, that's better. You can individually tweak them like that. Right, at this point, they're all very well in here. And if I'm prepared to come in and click the copy button to be able to use them, great. But if not, I've got this option up here where I can export. And I have a range of exports I can export to. So I could just take it out as a PNG. I could take it out as a wallpaper. There's all kinds of stuff. The one that's useful, that's the ASE, an Adobe swatch file. I know it's Adobe, don't panic. The Affinity apps can read this. So if I export that and we put that on the desktop, there it is. This can go away. It will still be stored in there, which means I've got access to it on all my devices and all my desktops as well. But that one I'm going to put in Affinity. So open up Affinity Designer again. If I install it as a system palette, it would automatically appear in Affinity. But if not, I have got swatches here. So here's my colours in there at the moment. We don't have that one, but we can import a palette. And you get to choose what kind of palette you would like to import it as. So either for this application, for this document, or as a system palette. Well, we'll put it just in this document. It goes out and asks us to go and find it. There it is. And click Open. Why it doesn't use the name, I don't know. Because it brings in the colours and it brings in the names of the colours, but it calls the palette Untitled. So we need to go back up there, rename the palette, and this one was called Demo iPhone. And our colours are now available. So let's get some squares in here. Right. And we can colour them whatever we want to colour. Where's that my pink one? There we go. And they are then available. So that is the decision that I made with it. It was time to lose the other one. I got concerned about the lack of updates and the licensing just got ridiculous. For utilities like that, I mean, there are obviously things where the licensing, you've got to jump through hoops. Adobe, for a start. At least Adobe let you deactivate machines. The other things that have silly activations are Wirecast. Parallels has thrown its toys out of the pram. But you accept it with things like that. They're big things, and once you've got them all lined up and they're working, great. But for little utilities, I haven't got the time. If every little utility made it difficult, I'm sorry, I just don't have the time. So that was why I moved. That was the decision. So, do we have any questions on that?
We do.
Okay, let me get your microphone on and read them out.
Patience said, did you say, because she was travelling home and missed some bits, did you say Colour Slurp was a one-time purchase?
It is. Yes, it is.
Morgan says, oh, colours, have you talked about Viva Magenta yet?
No. No, we haven't.
Colour of the year for next year, apparently.
Lovely. I'm imagining it being maroon, like a school uniform.
Pretty much, yes.
My
seen the
mother
pictures.
went to a grammar school and they had to have this blazer. You've seen Loretto College's blazer, haven't you? It's maroon stripes. It looks like a deck chair. She hated it. She hated maroon from that day on. Yeah, so I'm not expecting to like maroon.
And Carol says, can Designer read CorelDRAW files?
I don't think it can directly. I think you have to convert them. I don't believe so. If somebody wants to check that while I carry on, do let me know. I don't think so. They're CDRs, so I think Illustrator can. And sometimes you can get an app, and the sole function of this app is to convert stuff from one format to another. But I would have similar problems to you if I couldn't find something that read them, because although CorelDRAW is still going, I believe it's £600 a year just for CorelDRAW, which isn't happening. I haven't tried one myself, but I do have some stuff that's that old. It is in CorelDRAW format. So it might be worth knowing about. Good question. Mike, add it to the action list. What else do we have? Or
that was it.
That's it. Okay. Right. I am going... I've lost a slide. It's been eaten. That's the problem. So imagine that the black screen that you're looking at says Para and finishing Para. Right. There were 3 extra things on Para that people asked me questions about. So let's have a look at those. Right, the first thing that I've done with Para is people were saying, I want to try it, but I'm lost. So what I did was, as the last demo, I have got a drive to Para. I have a drive, and it's not parad. Let's do that, and get over here and do that. I've called the drive Para. Right, so this is a drive that's got a load of stuff on that needs organising, so that's what I'm going to wrap up with. So we will para something from scratch. You know, what do you do when you get to a drive and it's not parad, and you just look at it and it's like, I can't be dealing with it. But before then, we have 2 other things for para. Right, one's going to be really interesting because it's got a bug at the moment. Number of times I say that. Is Vivaldi. Now, it's the same with any browser. Can you parry your bookmarks? Yes. And so from the bookmarks, it's in a good mood today. Right, these will disappear because there's a bug. But I've got access to my bookmarks, that's my whole bookmarks. And yes, I have parried my bookmarks. There they all are. So, I have an inbox, there's nothing there. I tend to empty the inbox of my bookmarks on a daily basis. Projects is the next important thing, and I've deliberately left some there. BASB 15 finished in October, I think, but when you're in a cohort-based course, you will have a range of links that you are accessing constantly. So there's the home page for the course, there's the curriculum page for the course, there's all sorts. So probably about 6 links. And the first thing I do is set up a project for it, name it, and then go in and add those links as bookmarks, purely for speed, which is exactly what I did with Ship 30 and personal development and YouTube. Now, you can also see, in addition to those, and the areas would be ongoing things, which, to be honest, with bookmarks, I don't actually have a lot of bookmarks for ongoing things, but I do have a load of bookmarks that are related to MacBites, and MacBites is an area, so they're in there. The resources are things like stock sites and stuff like that, and the archive is anything that I'm not prepared to delete yet, but I don't need it right now, and they would go in the archive. But that's not the end of it with bookmarks, because you also have this page, which is your speed dial. And my speed dial has stuff on it that's longer term, and it's just easier than using a bookmark. Now, prepare to get meta, because the speed dial you're looking at is the Vivaldi speed dial. The reason for that is I have links to things like news sites. I like to know what's going on in the papers, even though it's all garbage, and YouTube links and anything that's work in progress. So I have a range of speed dials. This being the primary one, which has links to all the YouTube things that I go to directly. But I also have Speed Dial 2, which I use in all my other browsers. So I decided to get meta, and the first speed dial in my speed dials to Speed Dial 2. That sentence actually made sense with that many speed dials in it. But if I click that, it loads in a page. I was putting the church newsletter up last night, hence that one. This is what I have in every other browser. I just don't use this in Vivaldi. But if I do, like last night, want to get to upload the... First of all, I go to the media library and I upload it, and then I go to the home page, and you'll see it says in Visual Builder mode. So while the home page isn't even there, so we'll go to there. And there's the home page. Go on, don't take all day. That's the home page. If I went to there, I'd have to be going to edit the page and then enable the Visual Builder and stuff. So this enables me to have one-click access to the back end of the website, as you can see. It loads it in, and this is where I would actually add the newsletter. You will sneak peek here that if you see this thing like the Synod questionnaire, you didn't see that on the homepage. It's not there, but it's there in build view. You'll also see it's dimmed out. So half of this, including the Christmas masses, that's last year's. And this one was 2020 when all the masses were cancelled. You just hide it. You hide what's not needed. Now, these things are coming back in. So, again, this is 2020. For the first time, these masses are now on. I think they start on Sunday, so I need to update that. But this takes me to the builder view with all of the old newsletters in it, which saves me time. And I don't particularly want that to be... Hang on, shouldn't have shut that. That's the last one. I don't particularly want those in Vivaldi. I want them in every browser that I use, and that's why they're in my speed dial. So these aren't particularly parod, but on the other hand, they are, because the speed dial, work in progress, YouTube, news and CA are actually part of my resources. If you look at speed dials, there they are. So here's all my speed dials that I have. So they are a resource for Vivaldi. And then I've got all the other stuff like groceries and things like that that are in there. So yes, you can para your bookmarks. That was the first thing. Right. The other thing that I have parod is Ulysses. Now, Ulysses is a text editor. It's more than that, to be honest. It's a text editor come... let's get down to MacBites. There we go. MacBites what? Let's have a look. MacBites Lives. There we go. Right. So that was the last one. So this is Ulysses. It is a markdown editor that lets me publish straight to WordPress. And if you look what's happening in the sidebar, we have the inbox, we have projects, areas, resources, and archive. This down here is an external folder on Dropbox shared with Mike, because at the time his was broken. So we have some stuff in there as well. You'll see that there is nothing in projects, because I don't really... Would I even have it? No. If I was writing a blog post for MacBites, it wouldn't be a project, because it would be part of the areas. So if you look in the areas, I've got two main areas. There's MacBites and there's content creation. So in MacBites, I've got anything that's work in progress. I've got the newbie's guide. So all of the stuff that we put on the site about the newbie's guide lives in there. So here's Do Not Copy and Paste Week and the Courier Calamities. All of these are up on the site. Lesbian Vampire Killers. Oh, that's a great one, that. And Fish and Tips. That was the best ever, Fish and Tips. So they're all in here in MacBites as an area. And my content creation is exactly the same. So I've got anything that's a work in progress, my pillar posts, my ship 30 for 30 posts. I also have the folders are the real files. But within each of these folders, I have templates. So I have a tag for templates, which filters out just my templates. Then I've got stuff that's ready to publish. These are my blog 30 things. And if something is tagged MacBites, that's not a MacBites post, it's a post for me, but it just happens to be tagged MacBites. And that is how I organise it. So I do put all the para folders in, even if, like the projects, there's nothing in it. And there's nothing in resources either. I don't have resources for in here. It wouldn't make any sense to me at all. But I do have stuff in the archive that's old stuff that I don't want active anymore. So that's another way that I've used para. So we've had the bookmarks, we've had the blogging. Do we have any questions about para, Mike?
We don't have any questions about para, no.
Oh, I thought we did at the end. From Deborah.
Oh, we do there, yeah.
Yes, you see, you're not looking.
My big question about para, projects that repeat every month a due date but are repeating same projects or areas.
Completely up to you. If it's something that finishes and it has a date, it's a project. But if it makes more sense for you to keep that in an area, then do that. One example of that for me would be an episode of MacBites. While After Hours gets to go in the project folder, an episode of MacBites doesn't. I will show you why. Right, MacBites. Oh, this could be bad news. No, it'll be fine. Right, this is the MacBites Studio. It looks totally different than anything else, but look where it is. It's in my Dropbox, Areas, MacBites, and the folder is called the MacBites Studio. This is where the work happens on a show. So we have the Hindenburg files, because that's the app we use to edit it. The recording notes, anything that's pre-recorded, so pre-recorded pieces and pre-recorded library, sound effects, and our songs. Oh, we've got about 3 or 4 songs, I think. So an episode of MacBites would be a Hindenburg file. So if I open this up, you can see in there's episodes all the way through to 165. And at some point, 164 will get done, won't it, Mike? It's been almost ready for 3 weeks. It was the gas man, what can I say? But I don't move these from here and put them in the project folder at the top level because I'd only have to move them back when I'm finished. So we treat the MacBites episodes. That's why I've created a studio. It came from when we were doing Brooklands, and that's exactly what I did with Brooklands. I didn't want individual shows flying around. So to me, it makes sense although all of them are individual projects, it's one deliverable and a date, it doesn't make sense to be just flying them around the file system for the sake of it. So I don't put them in projects, they stay where they are. But After Hours, you'll find that in projects. So this is tonight's, and if you look at it, it's in the inbox of projects. So I did move it for a demo, but that would be in projects. The others would not. Right, we got any more questions about that?
Yes, another question from Carol. Thank you. I can't read it. In one sentence, why do you use para?
Oh, in one sentence. I was probably... Oh, no, that's going to be more than one sentence. Because when I tried it, I was sceptical, but it worked. That was succinct, wasn't it?
That's one sentence.
That's one sentence. That's succinct. I was sceptical, I'll be honest. I read all the articles, there was 8 of them, and I thought, this clearly works for him. I'm not convinced it will work for me. That wasn't me feeling I'm special in some kind of way. It was just like, I'm not sure that I could live with just those 4 folders. Would it work? And I thought, well, just try it on OneDrive. And that's what I did. And I swear within 20 minutes, I was like, oh, give me another drive. I'm going to para it. It works. If you stick to it, it works. In fact, even if you don't stick to it, if you find yourself like, let's have a look what I've got in the root of Dropbox right now. Oh, nothing. Aren't I good? And my drive. I've been really good at the moment. But sometimes I'll go here. Like my drive, this is my Google Drive. If you'd have looked at it last night, overnight, my areas in here, so our parishes, so we're going into areas, our parishes newsletters 2022. The last 4 newsletters, all of these are this year's newsletters. And the last 4 of them, so let's do a search by modified, that lot were in the root of my Google Drive. I didn't put them there, right? What happens is I get this one, which is the work in progress publisher file from the parish secretary, in an email. And from anywhere that I can get access to my Google Drive, to my mail, from anywhere, I tap that and save it to my Google Drive, and it puts it in the root. It would give me an option to put it somewhere else, but life's too short. So I just tap and say save to Google Drive. I then duplicate it and I create the edited copy. I'm proofreading it. So, for instance, the work in progress copy that I received had last week's date on it. So my first job was to make sure that it was dated correctly. And then I went through and I changed, I fixed the grammar mistakes, the spelling mistakes, the layout mistakes and stuff like that. Then I generate a PDF, which is this one. And then I duplicate that for that one. And they get sent back to the parish secretary, at which point they're in the root of my Google Drive. And then what I do from the root of my Google Drive, which is here, I just open up my areas and I've left it that is open, and I grab the 4 files and I drag and drop them in there. So it just works. You don't have to religiously, if you pardon the pun, put everything in that folder at that point. But when I tidy up, there is a folder it belongs in, and it just works. Does that help you? Does that help you? Right, have we got anything else?
Yeah, we have. From T. Andrew Caddick. Hi guys, I use Affinity Publisher to format my wife's books, the latest of which contains a lot of phone text threads. The latest version of Vellum for Mac has an easy way to format a text conversation. I want to achieve the same in Affinity Publisher.
Right. Well, you're looking at styles.
I have some ideas using a combination of text styles and slightly shaded rectangles pinned to each line of text. I would love, in capitals, to get Elaine's take on this at some point in the future.
One thing you might want to play with is if you get a clipboard extender and you copy each bit of the conversation in sequence, you could set it to paste it in the right order. So you would have to paste the stuff in, but if you create 2 styles, which is the sender and the recipient, so person A and person B, when you paste in the first one, you style it as person A. When you press enter, it automatically switches to style 2, and then you paste in the next one, and obviously it's pasting in sequence without you having to go and recopy it. It will paste it as person 2. And then press enter again, and then the style will switch back to person 1. So it's a chained style where you say the next style is. So you start with style 1, you create, from there, you need to create the second style first. Then you go back to style 1 and you say the follow-on style is style 2. In style 2, you say the follow-on style is style 1. And then the trick is the clipboard extender that would enable you to paste in sequence. You just paste, enter, paste, enter, paste, enter, and it will format it in sequence. Sadly, we don't have that option yet. But there's another way that you could do it. Oh, this is a good demo, this. You could put something at the beginning of each chunk to say person A and person B. So some code that isn't anywhere else in the documents, and then do a search and replace. Search for the code, but replace it with a style. And that would work. So hopefully that'll help. Right, anything else?
No.
Oh, Carol says, I've got so many job slides, etc. You don't know if you can sort them into 4 folders. Well, the thing is, these are the top level folders. So let's have a look at it. Let's go to this drive that isn't parrot, that's about to be parrot. Here. So this is what I face if I open up a drive and I look at it and I think, oh, you didn't parrot it, or it was pre-para. And I look at it and I'm like, really? Oh no. It's just a collection of stuff. Now, imagine that you're trying to organise that. The first thing's a film, right, that I recorded off the TV because, love dogs. and I love Christmas. So 12 Pups of Christmas, you're talking to me. So I look at that and I think, oh, that's entertainment, but I want to watch it before Christmas. And I start thinking, where should I put it? So probably what I'd end up doing is creating a folder called Christmas Films and leaving it in root. And this is the problem. You're making a decision based on the one thing. That's the problem. So the very first thing, if you remember, we got embedded files there, right, is para. Right, that I've got this zip file. And that zip file, when we look inside it, has the 6 folders that I have for para. So don't forget, I have an inbox and I have an application support as well. Right, so my first job is to take that and put it on the drive that I'm about to para. I think I dropped it either too late or too soon. Go on. Right, so the very first thing that I do is open that. It will create the folders in a folder called para. I no longer need that because that exists somewhere else. And the fastest way by far is to leave them where they are. Select everything else if you're brave enough. So everything apart from the para folder set is selected and shove it in archive. I think I put that in application support then. I meant archive. So shove it in archive and then move these folders out of the para subfolder because that's just the zip file that did that. So move those out of there, get rid of that. You're done. You've para'd. Now, you might think, well, just a minute. But the thing is, you may be at the stage when you're paraing to think, I've got a project to do and it's really important and I don't want to be distracted by anything. You've just para'd. It's done. Now, you can still get access to the files. You don't bin them. They're just in the archive. But if you wanted to do it properly, then let's go through here and see what we've got. Right, this is a film. What do I want to do with it? Is there a project that I've got assigned to watching this film? Now, there could be if I'm writing a review of it, but actually, no, there isn't. Right, is there an area that's associated with this? Well, if I'm a film reviewer, I may be, but there actually isn't. To be honest, there's not. What is it? It's Christmas entertainment. In that case, it's a resource. It's a resource for Christmas. So, don't get too specific. I'm just going to put Christmas films. It could actually be more than films. So I could say Christmas entertainment. But it's a resource. It doesn't have a start date, an end date or whatever. It's not really a project and it's not really an area either. It's not an ongoing thing. I'm not going to want to look at it in March. So it's a resource. So I create my Christmas entertainment and pop it in the resources. Right, what's my next thing? Custom compile in Scrivener. That's interesting. That was one of today's freebies in the Advent calendar. So up to this point, it would be part of a project, but maybe not part of a project on this drive. I might decide to change the drive where it is. But it went today. And so now where should it be? Well, I'm going to find it if I do a search for it because it's got Scrivener in it and compile. So leave it where it is in the archives because I'm not doing anything with it at all. Right, got some Envato freebies. These were amazing. And some of them were quite big. Yeah, 3 gig, some of those. Is it a project? No. When am I going to use them? No idea. Is it an area? No. They're just resources. I could pick them up and I could put them in resources, but I may have other assets that are resources. So I'd create myself a folder and I would say design assets or stock assets, whatever you want to call it. Let's make sure we've got the S on the end. Right, and put those in there. They are my design assets and my stock assets, and they're a resource. I would refer to them as and when I need them and not before. Oh, look, fonts. These are the errant fonts from the other night. They too are resources. If I'm writing a guide to managing fonts, they might go in the project folder, but right now they're not. They're just resources. How to take smart notes. What on earth's that? Okay, it's a quote. Right. what am I doing with it? I'm not filing this based on what it is. I'm filing it based on what I need to do with it. So let's say for this one, I am in the middle of writing a guide to Smart Notes. And it needs to be ready by the 20th of December. Right, so I'm writing a guide. So, guide to Smart Notes. And that is one item in it. Okay, that goes in the folder. And the folder, well, it's specific. It's got a deliverable and an end date. Oh, it's a project. So I would put that in projects. If it wasn't, if it was an area that I'm interested in, it'd go in areas. But it's a project. There's a deliverable and an end date. Right, Publisher 2 for iPad. I wonder what that is. Oh, it's all my stuff. That was the stuff that I had for Wednesday night. So, the reason it's called Publisher 2 for iPad and not Affinity Publisher 2 is, you'll notice in my favourites, I have Publisher 2 for iPad. If I had Affinity, it'd be too wide. But when I finished with it, and that link that's in the favourites is not pointing to this folder, so I will be able to put Affinity Publisher for iPad in there. It was a project. So if it's Tuesday, that goes in the projects. But today's Friday. It's no longer a project. It's been finished. So where does it go now? Well, if I'm going to refer to it in any kind of way, for anything that's coming up, it's a resource. But it's finished. I've done it. It's there. It's up. So it goes in the archive. Doesn't mean I can't ever refer to it ever again, but it's an archive thing. Right, screenshots. These screenshots for what? I have no idea. So to be honest, I would leave those in the archive unless I knew what they were for. These two were created in the demo, I do believe. And I think they're already in there. So what I'm going to do with them, we're going to pretend that these were separate files that were created on the night. And I'm looking at them, and they were our squares. We created 2 squares and coloured them, if you remember. Right, do I put these in the inbox as something I want to do something with? No, they were part of that demonstration, and that demonstration's been archived, so they just get shifted to that folder. And that's it. I'm parrot. Now, whereas I'd put everything in the archives, now that drive is perfect. And as I start working, other stuff will get dumped in there. So let me show you what I would do with this folder. So in here, this is tonight's show. So we've done that and that and that. Let's say I've copied these and I'm in my para drive and I've got this kind of stuff going on. Right. This was a project at the beginning, and so was that. And my colour slurp was a project, but we've done all 3 of those. This guide to Smart Notes isn't due till the 20th, so that's still active. The only reason to leave these as active is if I want to do something else with them. I don't at the moment. Now, if what I've done in there is something like I've taught you something that I may need, it's something that I don't know how to do without referring back to an instruction, then they'd be a resource. If I need to refer to them for reference or instruction, they would be a resource. But they're not. I've finished them. So I'd sling those in the archive as well and not worry about it. Now, if we look in here, let's see what we've got. Let's say that one, which has got a unique name. Right. Let's say you're thinking to yourself, I can't find a thing now because it's in the archive, and the archive is messy, and the archive's allowed to be messy. You can move things out of the archive when you start to use them again. But right now you're panicking that you can't find it. It's in an archive folder, but you don't know which drive it's in. Right, then this is what you do. There is a couple of apps. One is called How to Spot. Now, it looks hideously complicated. It's really not. Right, I'm looking for a file. And what do I know about the file? I know about the file. It's a publisher file. Well, before we get any further, I've got a template that restricts the results to publisher files. Awesome. So I double click that. And if you look over here, it's got all of the files. It's already run it. But that's not the one I'm looking for. But I do know that that's the name of the file. So because I've pre-filtered for publisher files, and that's the name of it, there it is. And if we look where it is, it's on the Para drive, in the archives, in that folder, there it is. It's actually virtually impossible to lose something. The only time I get fraught trying to find a file is when something isn't working. And one of the somethings that wasn't working at one point was Google Drive. There's a transition for all cloud services on macOS at the moment to where they store their files or their pointer files, and I couldn't find a thing. But luckily, if it's a cloud service that's causing the problem, you don't have a problem, because you just go to the cloud service in a browser and find it that way. So that's how I would actually Para a drive. And there have been occasions where I've got a new drive, I unbox it, goes on the desk, and I've unboxed it and I'm in a rush because my hard drive is full. I just grab the stuff off it and shove it in the folder, in the root of the drive. I then unzip my Para thing and I shove the whole lot in archives and I'll sort it out later. If I go to a drive and it's got like 300 files in it, I start like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to find what I need. And when I say not be able to find what I need, because none of it's in the archive and half of it's live. So I do that straight away, just put it in the archive, and you will think to yourself, that's active, that's a project, and do it that way. This system might not be for everybody. I know some people who don't like folders. They just put everything in like root and then search. I've never done that, because do you remember, Mike, there was a restriction, wasn't there, on the number of files you could have in root on Windows?
I think there was.
I'm going back years, but that was why I never did it. It was something like, might have been as high as 200, but I've got something like 127 in my mind for some reason. So I never did it. I always put everything in a folder. So do we have any last questions on that?
I don't think we do. No.
Right, okay. If you do have any questions about that, send them in. We will sort it out. Right, where are we up to now? Oh, freebies. I've got a good freebie today, haven't I? Right, freebies. Obviously, it's the MacBites Advent Calendar, so you definitely need to sign up for that. Definitely. They are going out at 9 o'clock every morning in the UK time, which is 1 a.m. in Seattle and 4 a.m. 4 a.m. on the East Coast, and 10 o'clock in Europe. So make sure you're signed up. Now, before we move on to the second freebie, have a look at the artwork. Just take it all in. Wolfie! And Wolfie is howling at Santa. Hold that thought. This is a freebie I found today. I stopped dead because I thought, I don't remember designing that. I didn't. Some swine has designed something very similar. That's free today from Amazon. So Mike's got the link. I was stunned when I saw it. I thought, I know he's going the other way and he seems to have lost 2 reindeer, but even so. Really? Yes. But you can never have too many copies of Christmas Carol, I find. So make sure you check that out today. Right, we're going to be looking at creating the MacBites After Hours Quirk-book in Affinity Publisher. We left ourselves last week at a perilous point, but the job got done. The Quirk-book. And I'm hoping somebody will have been taking notes in the Quirk-book tonight, because tonight was the first show in the Quirk-book. Right, let's go and have a look at it. While I find it, because I've now closed my Finder window, haven't I? Don't be ridiculous, woman. There we go. Right, let's go get the data. Quirk-book. Right, I've got the final thing. So I'm going to open the final one first, show you what we ended up with. And then let's find out how we actually got there. It is thinking of opening it. There we go. Right. So last week we were looking at the fonts. We had font issues, so we fixed the fonts. I colour-coded these. So I don't think we had that at that stage. And we've got the contents, which we didn't have at that stage. There was a really good reason that we didn't have a table of contents. We were going to have it in separate files. It was going to be a book. It didn't end well. I'm sure the book feature is fabulous if you're making a book with multiple chapters. But for what I was trying to do, it didn't like it. I could create the book. So the book is a wrapper that wraps around multiple publisher files. So I could do that. That was fine. But when I came to create tables of contents and stuff, it threw all its toys out of the pram. So I thought, okay, plan B. So I will explain what plan B is when we've seen what we've got. This page was the one that took the longest. Let's do a preview so get rid of all the odd lines. Purely because there was that many different elements on it. So I did use this on Wednesday night to show you that a file created on the desktop that's quite complex works absolutely fine on the iPad. And it did. So what we've actually got here is Tuesday was the match. It was dire, but we won. Wednesday was Affinity Publisher, so we have a banner across the top. And then we've got all the days of the Advent calendar. The Marooned episode last night, tonight's show. So there's something every day from MacBites in December, and it's all on there. Right, we've got the Christmas thing. So that's just a graphic. It was black. I did colour it, but it was an SVG and I coloured it. That was the only thing. With the table, you'll see that Wolfie's got his own space. That is, however, one table. So when you click it and you go into it, why are you not doing that? Of course, I locked you, didn't I? So you didn't move. Right, let's go into that and just select it. You can see that the blue edge does cut through Wolfie. But what I did was actually take away the corner. This one was literally just a text frame, I think. And then we've got, now at that point, that was the first chapter of the book. That's what we were going to call a chapter and say we were done. And I was then going to start with this bit, which was the bit for tonight, 171. And it had 4 pages for you to put notes on. And then it repeated and it went to next week's show. Now, although there's only 5 of them, and there's only 5 pages, you're looking at 25 pages there. It wasn't something I wanted to do by hand. Let's say that. So there's all those pages. And then after that, we had the Just for Fun. And there were some fun and games in there, Sudoku and word searches and stuff like that. Before the results for that, the last content page and the sign-off at the end. Now, that is actually 3 different elements as far as I'm concerned when I'm creating it. First of all, I started at the beginning. So my book started here. That was when I was working out the margins, setting the font that I wanted. This is just a line. That red bit there is just a line that's turned round with a stroke on it. Right, so that's just that. The Quirk-book is text. It's the cartoon font. These were just graphics, but by this stage I'm thinking I need to have some space for the table of contents. Then I need this complicated page, the most complicated, and then I needed that. At that point, that file should have had those pages in it. What it wouldn't have had in it was the rest of it. And I had a choice at that point. I could either carry on and create the puzzle pages at the end, or I could stop and do the middle pages, so the notes pages. Right, that's the actual file itself. So let's no, we're not saving anything with that because that's the final file. It actually said final in it, leave it alone. Right, let me have a look where we were with introduction. Yes, we were nearly there with that one, weren't we? I hadn't done it all at that point. But you can see that there's 5 pages in there and that's where I'd stopped. So, I'm not going to go through how I created this because that's fairly simple. How I took away the border at the end was I went into... That's locked again, isn't it? It is. And there's 2 of them. Don't ask. This was attempt 1. All I did in here was put my cursor in the cell. And then here I have table. And if I wanted this one on the right and the bottom to have something else, so it was the bottom, as I click on the bottom, you can see it's got none on it. So what it did have on it was white, like that. If we move away now, oh, it's black. It's black. It should have been white, but you can see it come back in. So all I did with it was make sure I was in that cell. That is utterly ridiculous because that says it's white. Not another bug. No, it can't be. Leave it alone. Right, bottom one. So go to the bottom. Oh, it's black. That's why. Okay, right. I'll make it white so you believe me. All right, it's now white and it's white on there. And all I did was the reverse of that. So you don't have to have a cell with a border all the way around it. You can take the borders off. 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, whatever you need. You do have to think about it though, because if I take off the top one, what happens to the bottom one of the cell above? So you do have to seriously think about it. I've been working on some tables for an upcoming demo, and I did what I thought was right, and I looked at it and I thought, oh dear. And I had to seriously stop and think about it. So with this one, it's fairly simple. I am choosing the bottom edge, which is that one, and I'm turning it off by saying no line on it, and it disappears. So that's what I did. So Wolfie had his own space. Right, the contents bit had a table of contents in it, which was this bit here. So I am going to show you the table of contents in here. There it is, but I'm going to delete it. So we'll get rid of it. Now there's no table of contents. Table of contents is actually really straightforward. All I need to do is find somewhere that I want to put it and then go to text, table of contents. Oh, it's saying update. That's interesting. It thinks it's already there. Sometimes it doesn't delete it properly. If we delete the entire frame, let's see if that persuades it. Right, let's draw a frame back in. I think I had it about there. I'm not going to worry about this. Right, so now we've got no table of contents. So now we need to put a table of contents in there. So if I go to text and table of contents, it's still saying update. Come on, I want a table of contents in there. Oh, it's not happy, is it? That's bizarre. Right, let's just take it back. Let's say that's how it works, and don't try and delete one. But you just need to go to text, table of contents, insert table of contents. Obviously, at the moment, it only has 2 things in it. This is important as we move forward. But how it's working is when I click in it, you can see over here it's pulling in the heading 1 and the heading 2. That's good enough. But it does mean we're going to have to think carefully as we move forward. But that is that file. That is where we are at with that file. That was the starting point. And that was actually part of the book. But I've done away with the book. We're not doing it the book way. So the next thing I needed was a starting point for the individual pages themselves. So the notes pages, which was a completely separate file. To save a little bit of time in the demo, I've actually got this file here. So all I did with it was create, actually I did this page first, and this is a placeholder for the image. I want that on there. And then the other 4 pages, I actually could do just one and then repeat them. So I could actually delete these if I wanted to. So let's delete those 3. That leaves us with 1. I guess the only clever thing in there was the layout for the notes, which I did on Wednesday night. Showed you how to do that in a table. So this is what I'm starting with. I've got a placeholder here. So I've got 2 placeholders overall. I've got one on this page for the image, and I've got one on this page for the image. The other thing I've got in here is some text, and it says XXXX and date. Right, that should indicate to you that they are, I'm not going to use the word placeholders, They're representative of where I want to put a field, because I'm going to mail merge these 25 pages. So it's not this file and the previous file that need to be put together. We discussed this last week in the book. In the book, this file would not have had anything to do with the book, but the file that this one generates when we mail merge, that one would. Do you know, it's probably taken me longer to explain it than it did to actually do it, seriously. But what I've got to make this work, we need the data merge manager, and we need to hook up to some data. So I am showing you what data we've got to hook up to. There were 5 shows, which means we have 5 numbers, 5 dates, etc. That's what that looks like. So we've got the show number. These green flashes are because Excel loathes me almost as much as I loathe Excel. And it's telling me that, oh, you've made these numbers text. Yes, that's because they've got a leading 0. So that's all that means. These are the dates. Don't get me started with dates in Excel. I want them to say the 2nd of December, the 9th of December. I put them in and I formatted them. And Publisher totally ignored the formatting and brought them in as 2/12, which is fine, but that's the 12th of February in the States. So I have had to put in column C and format it. I'm not pleased about this. I did manage to do it on my own. Mike was in bed. Mike misses most of my rants with Excel. Mike was asleep. But what I had to do was tell it to look at B2 and then put the text of that in C2 in that format. You shouldn't have to do that. I think it should take the format, but it didn't. So that's why there's an extra field in it. D is the most important one. This is telling it where the graphics are. So it's in the format of / and then telling it it's a local volume that's called Scratch in a folder called Quirk-book. Look for a file called MacBites After Hours 171 _ 1280 by 720.png. Right, this is the Quirk-book. Let's get another tab and let's go to the Scratch drive and see them. Because I've broken my para with it. I decided to leave the demo and the Quirk-book in root rather than having a path that went on for years. So this is the Quirk-book folder that is referring to. When we open it, there are the 5 files. This should work where you do a local reference to it, where it's related to where the file is. I couldn't get that working. So this way works, or it worked in rehearsal. In fact, it worked more in rehearsal because you've seen the finished book. Right, so that's my data file. I need to hook up to that data file, and I've shown you where everything is. So, back to our data merge here. I need to connect to it. Right, are you in the right folder? No, you're not. You're in another folder. That was where it was. That is not where it is right now. Right now, it's in number 5, Quirk-book. So let me get that. Oh, and you're not loading anything else in either, are you? You are in that mood. There we go, Quirk-book. Oh, you are in there. Fair enough then. Right, there's the file. So I'm going to open that up and it loads it in here. There's only one sheet in it, so it's just listed as one sheet. 4 fields, that's correct, and 5 records. That too is correct. Right, that's it for the data merge window. You can leave that on one side out of the way, so I'll get it off the screen. Over here, we now need a different, and I'm frantically looking for where it is, panel, which is the fields panel, which is in references fields, and it's showing. I knew it was there somewhere. I wish I knew where. I'm not seeing it. Text frames, tables. No, you're not there. You're not there either. I wonder if it's one of these. Or are you over here? Oh, good grief. It says it's open. I don't see it. Right, let's close some of these down. Can we close that from there? Yeah, close that. No, I'm not seeing it. Can anybody else see it? Or is it hiding on another monitor? Let's have a look if it's over there. No, I don't see it there. Let's get rid of this. Can't carry on if I can't see my fields. Oh, where have you gone? I'll tell you what, I'll turn it off and see if I see something flash. Right, fields. Oh, I saw that move. It was on the other monitor. Right, let's bring it back. And hopefully it'll come back in the same place. References, fields. There you are. How dare you hide behind YouTube? Right, there it is. That's what we need. At the bottom, we have the data merge, and it's got the fields here. So I need to change the XXX for the show number. So double click on that. It puts in the placeholder. That needs to be the date. You'll notice I've got date and I've got full date, and I need the full date in there, which leaves our little poster here. And technically, I just need to make sure that I've got that frame selected. And at the moment, that's not selected. There we go. And double click poster. Now, something should happen at that point. Let me show you what should happen. If I have a placeholder like this, it would have an X in it. And if I added my poster, that would get replaced with the lovely landscape symbol. Right, so why is that not appearing in the top one? It's a bug. Yes, another one. Right, this has a border on it, as you can see. It has the white bit and then it has a black bit on the outside, and it was done via Studio Link by going to Designer, which means when it gets back in here and I add the image to it, the image symbol doesn't appear. It's annoying. There is another way to do it, but that's what's happening. Then I need to go up here, and this one needs to have the poster in it. So you can use these fields more than once. That's what you want. Right, what else do I need to do? If we assume that this is correct, I just need multiple copies of it. So I need to duplicate it 3 times, because each of those pages were identical. Right. I need to do one more thing. It's tantamount to a dirty hack. I know you're thrilled. Right, when this 5-page chunk gets repeated 5 times, one for each show, I would like each show to appear in the table of contents. That was the trick with it. To do that, I need to have something on this page, but it seems silly to put a heading 1 on this page that says this is show 171 or 172, because you can read and it's on the poster. So I thought, which is why I've got this at the top saying talk. That's to remind me that I need to do that. So here's what I did. I got myself a little frame and I put in there what the text I wanted to appear in the table of contents. So it would be after hours. After hours what? A show number. So I need to put in the show number. So I put that in there. But formatted as it is, it would just appear. And actually, I need that to be a heading 1. If it's not a heading 1, it won't appear. So I will apply a heading 1 to it, which I now have. So we can see up here it says heading 1. That's a heading 1. But I still don't want you to see it. So what I did with it was just stick it behind the image. So there was not a sign of it. It was behind the image. Now, to make certain of that, I need to go to my layers and have a look. And at the moment, it's at the top. I can move that down so it's behind the picture frame. And the reason you can see it at the moment is there's no picture in the picture frame, but hopefully when there's a picture in the picture frame, you won't see it. So that then becomes my file. My starting point, as you can see, it's called at the top. Oh, tell me you didn't crash. No, back you come. That's good. Right. What I need to do with that is to save that file. Remember, this file itself is not going to be imported into the finished thing. Its output is. So I need to go into here. Always a good idea to preview with a record. So let's have a look what that actually looks like when I'm previewing it. You can see the blue outline of the heading. If we toggle the image off, you should see it's got the number in it, which means if I move on it's scooting down to the end of each one, but you can see it is updating. So that's actually looking fairly good at the moment. Right, at that point, I hit the generate button and it toddles off and it creates a completely new file. This time it should have 25 pages in it and they should be correct. Let's have a look at them. Right, that looks okay. These look okay right through. The one on Christmas Eve has the red poster, though that is there. That is fine. That's what we need. This file isn't saved at this point, so I'm going to save it. We'll call that Notes Pages, and we will put that in there. Right, we don't need that file open anymore. This file, which was the individual pages starting point, you might need this file again if you intend to create another Quirk-book, because this is the one that's hooked up to the data. So I would save that one. That's the pre-merge file. And that takes us back into in here. So, at the end of that. Right, there's a couple of ways of getting things in here. But the best one is document add pages or add pages from file. Now, we do have a file. So let's do add pages from file. There is the file we've just created, Notes Pages. So let's open that. And this is where we get to specify lots of things. So do you want to bring in all the pages? Yes. Where do you want them? After, and it says pages or sections, and it's saying page 3. And I think we want it after page 5, which is the last one. I don't want to ignore anything in terms of ignore the initial section and all of this. But the styles might get messy. So let's discard any that aren't used and worry about sorting the styles out later. And OK. Right, now it's saying here we've got a problem with the styles. Well, you want me to bring one in that's heading 1. And it conflicts with the heading 1 in this file. So what do you want me to do with it? That's going to be critical. The decision to that is going to be critical. Because if I replace it, the styles in my existing file are going to be incorrect. If I rename it, and I call it something that isn't picked up in the table of contents, what I want in the table of contents isn't going to be there either. But it's all fixable. So we will, it's giving you a preview once you click it as to what's going to happen, but we'll rename it. We'll rename it to heading 1, and we will add on to that Notes Pages. Right, so it'll come in as is. We're not worried about that at all. Everything should work. So while we're in here, if we toggle that off, why aren't we seeing it? Why are we not seeing it? We should be seeing it. Let's see what happens when we try and sort this out up here. Right, so I need to go into the table of contents and I need to refresh it. And we shouldn't actually see much in the way of a difference, but we are, so never mind. It must have picked it up. That's pretty much what we want to see. So that was the dirty hack to make that happen. If you want them to see the title, then you don't need to worry about hiding it like me. But I thought it was overkill to have text on there. So what I did was just hide it behind it, but it still came through to in here. Looking at this, it's translated it because there's no tick in that box, which is what I called it. So bringing it in, it brought the style in, but it didn't automatically add it to the table of contents. And because I'd styled the text as a heading 1, it renamed the style, but it didn't apply that style to my document. It left it at heading 1, which is good. I like that. I like that. You might not if you wanted it the other way around, but I quite like that. So that was how I got those pages in. And the extra pages at the end, I've got to hat off to Mike here, who said, don't recreate the wheel, basically, didn't you? Right. Did I have that in here? Quirk-book. No, it's not there. Right, so what I need to do is go and find it. So I had a file that you've seen before. I used it. It was the very first file I ever created in Affinity Publisher. And it was the Office Summit file. So I'm going to find the one that I used, which I think was that one. Right, let's add a copy of that into there. So I'm going to show you this file. And as I say, it harks back to 2018 when I demoed the beta version. And it's 350 meg. Right. You will notice these. I repurpose these. The one that I thought was worth demonstrating, because all I've done with these is literally copy them. Let's get this out of the way. I just copied these pages and put them in the new book. So there's the one. I moved them around a bit, I think. But there they are. So that's what I did with it. But the one that I thought was really interesting was this one. I obviously don't need the Office 365 and all of that, but they're just for fun and this and this. I needed all of that. So I looked at this and I thought about this particular page. This is a spread and I'm working in pages. But I thought, I want that and I want that. And I wanted the graphic at the background. Where's the graphic at the background? It's that one. Right, so I wanted those three, I think. So I just copied them. Which was fascinating because as I got it into my document, so I'm going back to the other file now and going down to the end, and we'll add a page in, which we want after page 30. Do we want that on it? Doesn't really matter, I don't think, but we'll go for it anyway. Right, so there's my page. And I've not done anything with what I just copied, and you saw it was orange. So I'm going to paste it in, and it's not orange. And that's because this already had black and white on it. So when you look at it, I've got a rectangle on it and I've changed it so it's black and white. So it's interacting. If we grab that and move it, it's interacting with the background. It's just a black and white image that is interacting with the background. So when Mike said, oh, don't reinvent the wheel, use the one that, even if they did them back in 2018, they're not going to remember the numbers. And I thought, do you know what? He's right. That way I can actually get some sleep. So that's what I did. And even I was surprised. I thought, oh, that was clever of me. Not to just bring it in and make it work for that file. It can then work for any file. And that is how I made the Quirk-book. So do we have any questions on that?
None at all.
Oh, they've either all nodded off or you've followed along manfully and have no questions at all. Right. Let's go into there then. So, coming up, because I've been asked about this as well. Well, we have a special Christmas schedule, being MacBites. We do have another 4 shows coming up after hours in December, starting next week. Our 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which is usually Christmas Eve, is a day early, because it falls strange this year. So it's actually 'Twas the night before Christmas, so don't miss it. Don't turn up a day late. Were you about to say?
I love it, thank you.
Oh, hang on, Mike. Microphone. Mike. Right.
Kimmy says, I love it, thank you.
Excellent. Right, your mic's open.
Right.
So don't say anything you'd regret publicly. Right. So we also in December are running our MacBites Advent Calendar. I was 3 days ahead, but by Sunday I'm going to be a day behind, so I need to deal with that. But yes, we are doing our MacBites Advent Calendar. You only need to be subscribed to the mailing list, and there'll be lots of treats coming your way. This is where we're at so far. Thursday's done, and Friday's done. On the 30th, which will be 5 days after it's finished, I thought I'd show you how on earth we manage it. Because there are days I don't know how we manage it either. What you're looking at is the comms. That's our comms table, and that's when we send the mails out. But obviously, we're creating freebies, we're acquiring freebies, and we have to track it all. So this year, we've in addition to the comms table, we've got a whole tracker going on. So we'll share that with you when it's all finished, because we wouldn't want any spoilers, would we? Right, so the next show is next week, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock on the 9th. And that's 172. I keep mentioning these, and I will get dates, because obviously now you know we're on holiday. I've got no excuse anymore, have I? But we do have the Affinity Designer Duo coming up. So I'm going to do the desktop first, because that's just new features. To be honest, with Designer and Photo, pretty much they'll all be the new features. And some of the features, like the command controller, are across all the apps. But some people won't watch all the videos. They'll only want Publisher, or they'll only want Designer. So there'll be a lot of overlap. But, going through things 2 and 3 times is handy, isn't it? And who knows, this time the fonts might load first time if I incantate a chicken. So there will be the iPad version of that, then there will be the desktop version of Photo and the iPad version of Photo. We particularly asked about, Peter C, who wanted to know when we're doing the desktop ones. So the 2 desktop ones are coming up, but we have already done the publisher desktop one, which was the new features and the Q&A. So that's already there and available on demand, and so is the publisher one. Much against my better judgment, because I thought it was catastrophic. I would make it private. But no, people are saying don't make it private. So it's still there. It's still there. Warts and all. Warts and all. And of course, MacBites After Hours is available on demand. You just need to go to youtube.com/Elaine Giles. There is also a playlist which has all of the After Hours all the way back to November 2018. And you will find that at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And when we finally get back into the studio, now the gas men have gone and done a wonderful job recreating the pavement, we'll be able to sort that out and do a MacBites. We love you guys. If you have enjoyed the show, then please give us a like. It really makes a difference with YouTube. And there is my list, where I've still got the timings to do from Wednesday. I couldn't bring myself to watch it, that's why. But I've got to do it tomorrow. It'll happen tomorrow, I swear. And you'll get an email about that with the timings included. So that's elainegiles.com/VIP. And where you need to be for the MacBites Advent is macbites.co.uk/MacBites-mail. Then, of course, there's Slack, where we carry on the conversation between shows. And you can join us completely free, macbites.co.uk/Slack. And there we go. So do we have any last questions before I start lusting after ice cream?
No.
Is it too cold for ice cream? Yeah. Should I be having something warm?
Yeah.
Do you know what I really like that I shouldn't have?
No.
Horlicks.
Oh.
It's like malty and warm.
Well, I don't think we've got any.
No, because there's too much wheat flour in it. Yeah, that's why. And, without, if you just have warm milk, that's just disgusting. I don't actually drink milk, do I?
No.
I don't think I've had full-fat milk since I was a child.
I have it on my muesli.
I don't think you'll find we buy milk, Mike. We buy fully skimmed. It's basically white water. Flavourless white water.
I got semi-skimmed last time.
Oh, adventurous. No, well, we don't have it in tea, do we? So there's no point.
True.
Just before the pandemic, we would... Obviously, we're going out shopping at the time. It'd be like every month, and buy some milk. We didn't drink it. It was just in the fridge in case somebody came round. So early doors in the pandemic, Mike's putting an order in. And I said, don't forget the milk. And he said, why? Who's coming? I went, good point. We not bought milk since. Not the proper stuff that other people have. We have black tea. Like people have black coffee. Black tea is fine. When I was younger, this is a terrible admission, not only did I have milk in my tea, I had sugar in my tea. And I had a medical condition that's the opposite of diabetes. So instead of restricting sugar, the doctor would be feeding me sugar cubes. Honestly, I was like a donkey. I'd walk in and he'd give me sugar cubes. So my mum said, well, have some in tea. She ended up putting 5 spoons of sugar in my tea. You could stand the spoon up in it. And you get used to it. You become like immune. So if there was like 4 spoons of sugar, it'd be like, that's not sweet enough. And then one day I just said to Mike, I'm not having sugar anymore. I'm done. I'm not having sugar anymore. And I cut it out. And then I said, I'm not having the milk either. And I cut that out. So can you imagine going from full fat milk and 5 spoons of sugar to no milk and no sugar? Yeah, brown water.
Right, there's a question.
Oh, we got a question. Right.
See if you can do what you did with Carol and do it in one sentence.
Oh,
yeah. Jamie says, Obsidian, is it worth having? If so, what for?
One sentence. One sentence.
Patience has tried to, say what she uses it for.
It's for making notes.
I was going to say I use it for making notes.
I would describe it as an IDE, an integrated development environment. So if you're a coder, an IDE, an interface to manage text files. So it's not a notes app like Evernote, where it's got all the bells and whistles and stuff, but it's proprietary. Your notes are yours. They are in plain markdown. And if you suddenly decide you're leaving Obsidian, you can take them with you. There's no proprietary thing going on at all. So in one sentence, it's for note-taking. It has backlinks. It's like Roam, but free. And although I use Roam, and I used Roam for over 3 years, and I took that 5-year deal thing, which was still cheaper than paying for 2 years anyway. But I took the Believer plan at $500, and I moved from Roam to Obsidian, so that should tell you how good Obsidian is.
He says he uses Scrivener anyway.
You could use Scrivener for notes, and I remember doing Ship 30, and I explained Scrivener to somebody. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to use Scrivener, for virtually everything. Obsidian, I think you'd have to see it. I don't think it's something that you can particularly explain unless you've used something like it. But we've had a request for that. We had a request a while back, but the thing was, when we got this request, I was using Roam, and I felt it would be disingenuous to do a demonstration of Obsidian when I wasn't using it. I did do a demo of Roam. I think the issue with Roam was the cost of it, and Obsidian is totally free, and they have guaranteed it will always be free. There are 2 services that you can pay for. Well, actually, yeah, there's 2 services and a third option. The 2 services, one is Sync, but you can sync with iCloud. Although that's more of a, what would you say? A prayer. Prayer and a hope. You can synchronise with iCloud. You can synchronise with Dropbox. The problem with Dropbox is it doesn't synchronise to iOS devices, but iCloud does. When you get to a certain point with iCloud, iCloud just has problems. So to be honest, I was using iCloud for sync. I now pay them for sync. They give you 5 volts that you can sync. So I saw a video on YouTube before I used the sync, and this guy said, this is my vault, I've set up sync, and this is my sister's, and I've set up sync. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And when I was thinking iCloud is doing my head in, I could not get my Obsidian notes synced, and it was a crisis. And I thought, I'm just going to pay for sync. I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, couldn't I synchronise Mike's vault as well? And yes, I could. So you could actually share it between 6 people if you wanted, on one account, if you were so inclined. It doesn't mean I can see Mike's notes. It doesn't mean he can see mine. You're just using a sync pipe that's the same pipe on the same account. The second thing that you can pay for is to publish your notes publicly. That's not how I use it, I can assure you. So that's not happening. And the third option you've got is you can make a donation. And if you make a donation, it's called the Catalyst program. If you make a donation, I think it's $25, but you can make more if you want. You get early access to the future versions. So after I've been using it about a couple of months, I thought I'm going to give them money. Because I think when something clicks, when it is the one, and I know from all the ones I've tried that this was the one. I'm not saying I would never move, but at the moment, compared to everything else that's out there, Obsidian beats them all, hands down. Then I wanted to support them. It was just like Alfred. I'd bought a lifetime license for Alfred. And when I came to install it, not this version, the last version, they said, would you like to make another donation? We know you've got a lifetime license, but you can make a donation if you want. And it was your fault. Mike wanted me to do something while I was installing Alfred. And I said, just a minute. So what? I said, right, I'll deal with it. And I used the Alfred key, and Alfred wasn't there. And I thought, I can't live without Alfred. Seriously, it was that bad. So I gave them an extra donation. I think, there are companies out there that rip you off right and left, even when they back down from it. So I'm thinking about cases where we're going subscription and anything you bought before doesn't work anymore. And then they've changed their mind. I love companies that don't go down that route. Just have something there, and it's like, we'll make a donation if you find it useful. So that's your options with it. You can use it completely free forever. But I would say a good definition of it is an IDE for text files, wouldn't you? Because you can open up multiple notes. You can have one in a tiny window. You can have one pinned to the top. It's more of a development environment. You decide where the notes are. You decide what it looks like. It's not like Evernote where you go into the home panel and it's like, can I move that over there? No, it's not that. You do need to maybe know Markdown, but Markdown's really simple. It is. And I've got it on the list now. People want to see Obsidian, so I will put it on the list and I will show you. Oh, Jammy doesn't like iCloud either. No, it's like I say, it's more of a hope than an expectation. Let's put it like that. It was doing really well and I was surprised. And then this particular day, it just stopped synchronizing and there was nothing I could do to make it synchronize. After that, it had another issue. iCloud's just constantly got issues as far as I'm concerned. If I could turn it off, I would. But the way that Apple have certain apps set up, you can't do that. It got into such a mess with itself that I thought if I reboot, it'll be fine. But what is happening on a reboot that makes it fix itself? If I could just do that, then I don't need to reboot. So I went off and I did some searching. And I found a service called com.apple.bird. Which you'd ignore, wouldn't you? Think it was Twitter. Being honest, you would. And it said you can clean the cache on this. So if you nuke the cache, you might be all right. And I thought it's worth a try. And at this point, it was like, well, it's that or a chisel. So I deleted everything in this folder. And then I emptied the bin and I sat and I waited and everything started working. So that went in me, Obsidian. What to do when you're in a mood with iCloud. Oh. Right, Patience Essential hashtags entries helps you relate back to similar days to track trends. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant for stuff like that. One of the things that I didn't think I was going to like, but I actually do like in Obsidian, is in Rome, a tag is a page and a page is a tag. There's no difference between them. The reason that they make a distinction is formatting them. So you could have something formatted as a tag or you could have it formatted as a page. And I did used to do that, so they look different. But in Obsidian, they are different, which has meant that I've really, really taken down the number of tags that I have. The tags are more useful the fewer you have. So I've really reduced the number. So, for example, when I'm doing the week at MacBites headquarters, you would not believe how difficult it is on a Friday to remember what you did on Monday. So I have a daily note, and on my daily note, if there's anything that's like, oh, I'll put that in the week at MacBites headquarters, I hashtag it. And I hashtag it TWAMBHQ_next. Then I do a search for those. That tells me what I'm putting in there. But then when I've finished, obviously I can't leave that tag there because I'll need that tag for next week. One option is to replace the next at the end with a number. So 171. The problem with that is, as a hashtag, my hashtag list would just grow and grow. And it doesn't need to be a hashtag. I'm not going to be using it in the future. So instead of hashtagging it, I actually put a page reference next to it. And that means when I go to the page, they're all listed underneath as backlinks. This is going to sound like ancient Greek if you've never used a notes app with backlinks, but that's what I do. So I can show you that as well if you like. Okay, right. Do we have any leftover questions?
Don't think so, no.
Or are we done? Right, okay. So it's looking at the moment like next Friday, but you never know. If I get a spurt on, then it could be Affinity Designer for desktop. Between now and then, I don't know. Mike and I are going to have a conversation. Mike doesn't know this yet, but we're going to have a conversation about sessions during the holiday. This is news to you, isn't it?
No.
Oh, you knew that was coming?
You mentioned it the other day.
When you what? You listened? Wow. Well, who knew? But that's what we'll do. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you are ready for the rest of the Advent calendar. You do not want to be missing the Advent calendar. Absolutely not. And other than that, we'll see you next week. So for the moment, it is good night from me.
And this is good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.